Crank it up, let it roll. Stars and stripes in my soul. Steel toes on, boots in the gravel. Heartland truth on every channel. Open Bible, flag on the wall. We say what we believe or we don't talk at all. This is red, white, and raise hell. Cowboy hat, church bell. Can't scare us into silence. We were born to rebel from the back road to the beltway. We won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raise hell. We back the badge, we guard the border. We love our guns and law and order. They try to shame every word we say, but we don't bow down, we just press play. This is red, white, and raise hell. Cowboy hat, church bell. Can't scare us into silence. We were born to rebel from the back road to the bell. Hey, we won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raise hell. You can cancel the show, but not the crowd. We're still here, still talking loud. Hand of the free on every spell. Hit that mic, host, let the truth ring out. This is red, white, and raised hell. Cowboy hat, church bell. Can't scare us into silence. We were born to rail from the back road to the beltway. We won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raised hell.
All right, are you ready to experiment with me? This is literally an experimentation. So we're going to see. Let me drop this off the screen real quick. Dylan is not here today. I need to know right now, can y'all hear me? Can you all hear me? I'm trying a new microphone in case you can't see it on the screen. I hope and I pray that you are able to hear me right now. And I have no evidence or confidence of that. So y'all need to tell me right now, can you hear me through this new mic? You can. Okay, great. Beautiful. Beautiful. I needed to change the setup here because I needed more space. I needed more room. I got a new mic, and I just didn't know if it was going to work. I wanted to test it with Dylan this morning, and then Dylan texted me, I don't know, whatever, 5-something in the morning. His internet is out where he lives. And so he wasn't able to dial in and be a part of this thing today. So I was going to test it with him, obviously, before we got started. Like I said, I had nobody on the other end to test with. So it was going to go live, and it was either going to be hit or miss. So beautiful. So according to my chatters, loud and clear, beautiful. What's freaking me out a little is, and the reason I kind of questioned whether or not it was going to be working is I don't know. I don't want to get too technical, but there are lights on it that I'm told from when I read the instruction manual. It's hard to believe there are instructions, but it's one of these hybrid wireless and or wired microphones, and it's got different colors on it, which is hard for me because I'm pretty colorblind. telling me what, when the mic is hot, when it's not, when it's working, when it isn't, yada, yada. So anyway, that's my story. So I needed to make sure that the mic is working okay. So let's see. What are we looking at here? I'm just checking out the chat here real quick in the early going. All right, we got some folks up there just up and early and getting at it. And I love the dancers, by the way. You guys are amazing whenever I play that. Very fun stuff. Whenever I play that show up, and by the way. So it is a free-for-all Friday. I've got one guest, and it's going to be a little bit of an unusual one insofar as he's not really a newsmaker. He is an art maker. You look behind me, the paintings that I have behind me are extraordinary works from Ray Simon. And Ray is a Northeast Ohio guy, and he is phenomenal. He's got his own presentations coming up. There's an event coming up on President Trump's birthday at the Trump Kennedy Center. Let me see if I can throw this up here real quick. He's going to be with me in an hour, by the way, just a little FYI. Where is that part about the reception? Yeah, here it is. Take a look at this real quick. Let me pop this up. Remember, I'm running the controls myself today because Dylan is not able to join. A VIP cocktail reception and private viewing of the Ray Simon Art Collection at Trump Kennedy Center at the Global Art Gala. It's on Sunday, June 14th, which is two things, which you probably know. One, it's Flag Day. Number two, it is Trump's 80th birthday. So Ray Simon is going to be presenting two new pieces that he has done at this event, and he's going to give us a preview of it today at about 8 o'clock. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I think it's going to be an awful lot of fun. And quite frankly, his paintings are inspirational. So the ones I have behind me, I've talked about this before. Let me lean the right way. The President Trump one that you see there is a Ray Simon extraordinary piece, the original of which, obviously these are prints, but the original painting of that Trump painting is hanging in Mar-a-Lago, where President Trump, of course, lives at his home. And then the other one, the Charlie Kirk painting that you see there, the inspirational freedom painting, that one is actually hanging in the White House. So just, that's the influence Ray Simon has as an artist. And I've been telling you about going to raysimon.art for a long time to see his extraordinary work. So I'm going to talk about him and with him at 8 o'clock this morning, and I'm very much looking forward to that. Also in the 8 o'clock hour, you're going to hear the full interview that I had planned to give you 1 week ago, last Friday, as a pre-recorded show because I was driving back after spending the night in Oregon, Ohio, up Toledo way, because of the speaking event we did. And if you may recall, I uploaded the show and it just didn't play because of some of the gobbledygook contained in the Rumble system. So anyway, you didn't see it live. I uploaded it, but you have to go hunting for it. And now, just because I uploaded it to the channel, but I want to give it its full prime time viewing, if you want to call it that, the live stream. And that is the interview with Josh Williams and Angie King, two Ohio state representatives who are teaming up to try to stop, as you can see the title of today's podcast, Protecting Ohio Kids from Ohio Pervs. That's literally what it's all about, making sure that the perverts don't get access to our kids with their adult-only material. And it's that simple. It ought to be, it's ridiculous that we need a bill for that. It's ridiculous we need a bill. It's ridiculous that it needs to go through the House, the Senate, be signed by the governor, when it should be just like, perverts coming around doing sexualized things around children ought to be locked away. And they can self-lock away in their own adult establishments if they wish. And if they don't, then we'll lock them away behind bars. I can't believe we need to say that out loud, but we do, and we will. And Josh and Angie are doing great work on that. So that'll be, I'm going to play that for you in the 8 o'clock hour after we're done with Ray Simon, which is probably going to take us a little bit past the 9 o'clock threshold. So we're just going to go a little overtime, and that's okay, because I want you to see that whole interview in its entirety. It's important that we put some pressure on the Ohio State Senate to get that bill passed. It cruised out of the House, and now it's sitting in the Senate Judiciary Committee, where one of the most rhino-y of rhino senators in the Ohio legislature sits in control as the chair of the Judiciary Committee, and that's Nathan Manning, and he doesn't want to bring it for a vote because he doesn't support it. He is A-OK with the grooming of children by the LGBT, particularly the T freaks, trying to, push this kind of garbage on children, and that's a problem. We need to get that. We need to get that through. We need to convince him to push that thing through. So at least to get it out for, he don't even have to vote for it if he doesn't want to, but let the freaking Senate committee vote. Then let the full Senate vote and let the people be represented. All right. So that's the 8 o'clock hour. I'm pretty much giving you the lowdown. As for this 7 o'clock hour, the first hour of the show this morning, obviously it's free for all, like I said. So I'm going to be checking into the chat frequently this morning, particularly in this hour, to see what you're interested in. But I am going to start with a couple of things that I'm interested in. And this one, I'm just going to kind of share the screens with you as I can without Dylan being here. So it's not going to be perfect because I'm trying to do it all at the same time. But this is a big deal last night. This is a very, very big deal. They did a vote-a-rama, and they decided, the Senate, only on a simple majority vote, was going to pass the full funding for ICE and Border Patrol, $70 billion, which is what Senator Bernie Moreno promised me back in May they would do on a separate reconciliation bill. So they wouldn't need the full 60 votes to break the filibuster. Okay. So Senator Moreno told me, and President Trump said, hey, that's fine. If you recall, he said, we're going to pass DHS funding to break the longest partial shutdown in U.S. history. We're going to pass DH funding fully, except for, it's the only way the Democrats were going to go for it, except for ICE and CBP. And then the Democrats were counting on not, oh, music is still playing a little bit, isn't it? Okay, sorry about that. I didn't realize I still had it up. It just became audible to me. Okay. Anyway, the point of all of that was that the Democrats were not going to allow it to go through, and then they were going to hope once it got stripped out of the DHS bill that they would be able to push this thing to November and then have a campaign issue to run on, which is, basically continue to trash for the next 5 months, ICE agents wearing masks, calling them Gestapo and all the other kind of vile crap that they do. So President Trump said, I want it on my desk by June 1st. They missed by 4 days. Today's June 5th, and it's going to the president because the Senate got it passed. It'll probably have to be passed again by the House, excuse me, so that it is all reconciled, and then it'll go to the president, and it should be signed. So it's really, really important, this bill, and I think I have a little audio report on it here that I can share from Fox News, as long as they don't go playing a commercial before it, which is sometimes what they do, but let's see if we can make this happen.
Why? Well, because lawmakers busted out of there yesterday after a tense fight between Senate Republicans and the Trump administration over the proposed anti-weaponization fund. Fox News congressional correspondent Chad Pergram has the scoop on this showdown. Chad.
Brian, this is the most pushback that the Republican Congress has directed toward President Trump in his second term. Republicans knew there would be amendments to curb the fund, so they pulled the bill and sent lawmakers home.
I think a lot of people are troubled by it. Nobody knew anything about it. We learned about it in the press.
John Thune said the White House should have consulted Congress about the fund, but some conservatives are angry that Republican leaders pulled the plug. They say the party campaigned against weaponization.
I think it's pretty gutless on the Senate.
All right, this is not necessarily what I wanted. They give you a misleading headline here. You see the headline, Senate scraps border and ICE funding vote, and that's the one I listened to during prep. But now it is speaking specifically of what they scrapped, which is different. So let me pull away from that and instead just tell you what you need to know about what happened last night in the vote-a-rama. The most important part about this is that the Senate agreed with just one vote to spare. In fact, I take that back. There was one Republican senator who was Murkowski of Alaska, who did not vote specifically to fund ICE and Border Patrol for the next 3.5 years. So they did get to $70 billion, but divisions, and this is, I'm going to quote from the article, divisions over the president's agenda were laid bare. And I'm just going to have to come out and say it bluntly. The Senate is cowardly. Our Senate majority, 53-47, plus the tiebreaker with Vice President Vance, should be able to get a lot more done than they are. But our Senate is cowardly. They refuse to do what the American people told them they wanted done back in November of 2024. They refuse to do what the people said. And they said they want not just Trump, they want the Trump agenda passed. All right. And that includes a lot of things that this Senate continues to block. And I'll give you a prime example of it here in a moment, as soon as I finish the rest of this part about the really important part about the funding. John Thune is one of the biggest cowards, and he's the Senate Majority Leader. He's one of the biggest cowards. But what he said was, quote, Democrats would not agree to anything. Eventually, they walked away altogether, presumably because they thought this would serve them better to have an issue for November. And that is 100% true. But getting the ICE and CBP funded for 3.5 years for the $70 billion is extremely important because it comes with 0.0 reforms. The Democrats wanted all kinds of reforms, including warrants for every single illegal alien that they grab up and get ready for deportation, even if there have already been warrants that have been issued. They want a second warrant from a different judge. They want all of these protections of the illegal aliens. They wanted the agents themselves not to be able to conceal their identities, even though we just had a big story on this on Tuesday. The arrest of one of these psychotic, lunatic pieces of trash in Newark, New Jersey, screaming, and we played that video for you. I'm not going to play it again, screaming at an agent, I've got your face and your family is dead. You're dead. Your family, your wife, your children, all this other vile crap because he saw his face. I mean, if ever there was a commercial for funding ICE and letting them conceal their identities, that was it. If I can see your face, I'm going to find out who you are, and your family is going to be paying the price now for you being out here doing your job enforcing federal law. I mean, that was just like, that's a layup commercial, and it ought to be something that is being pushed and promoted by Republicans in campaigns all over this country between now and November. This is what the Democrats stand for. The reality is the Democrats support that guy, the one who was in that camera screaming and pointing at that agent that he was going to kill his wife and his family. He's now facing 10 years in jail, by the way, 10 years in prison. And I hope he gets every one of them. Now, it is probably going to be a left-wing judge and, a left-wing prosecutor, and it'll probably be way, way, way softer than that. But at least the arrest has been made. And most importantly, like I said, the commercial has been made. Hopefully somebody is going to do something with it, but the commercial should show this is who the Dems support. People threatening. And how do we know Dems support that guy? Because I went on a freaking tirade, maybe it was Monday, about Juan Williams, basically refusing to condemn that language, refusing to condemn that threat against a man's family, refusing to talk about the mask and why it's important for them to be able to conceal their identities when nutjob, politically violent individuals are out there. He refused to condemn any of it and just proceeded to blame the Trump administration because it's triggering everyone. So the Democrats support that crap, and I hope that is something that but the point being that I was going to say that the Republicans take advantage of. But the point being, what happened yesterday was extraordinarily important in that the passage with a simple majority vote, only Murkowski voted against it. The passage of the full funding without any reforms whatsoever. That's huge. Now, what that video started to play, which I wasn't ready for yet, when it started to play, it talked about what was taken out of the bill, because that was supposed to be a big part of it. But the Senate parliamentarian got in the way, and the Senate parliamentarian tried to say that the weaponization fund to give compensation to victims of government weaponization, President Trump put forth $1.776 billion, 1776 for a reason, because their liberty, which is what we declared in 1776, had been taken away from them. This is all a part of his settlement of his lawsuit against the government for leaking his tax returns to the press. And instead of taking a personal payout, he said, no, I want the money to go to this. Well, apparently it was too politically, questionable, I guess, or politically toxic, perhaps, for some Republicans running for re-election, but it got a massive amount of pushback from a whole bunch of Republicans who said, we're not going to be able to fight this fight if it's going to fund some of the J6ers, including some of those who actually were violent. There was a very small number of those who were goaded into violence by way of the feds in the crowd, but we're not going to be able to defend paying them, you know, 1.76 billion taxpayer dollars. So they would not go for it. So that finally got stripped away, which is why the bills were passed yesterday, and that Votorama, and in particular that ICE funding bill that just needed to get through. And it is without then anything having to do with the weaponization fund. So that's just the biggest part of that. Now, why do I want to focus on this? Hey, our Senate is cowardly. Our Republican senators in particular are cowardly. And the reason should be obvious, because they're a bunch of freaking cowards. Here is the other half of the big story last night that I want to give you. 4 of them, again, blocked, working with the Democrats, blocking the Save America Act. And one of them we have to actually support. The 4 are Mitch McConnell, who died a few years ago but doesn't know it yet. Tom Tillis, who died politically in North Carolina a long time ago and will be officially out after November because he's not running for re-election. He's been completely destroyed by President Trump. Lisa Murkowski in Alaska, which is, again, one of the worst senators ever to have an R by her name in the history of the United States Senate. And then the other one, the 4th, is one that we actually have to support. And that, of course, would be Susan Collins. Why do we have to support her? Because she's running a campaign to keep the seat in Maine and to keep it out of the hands of Graham Plattner, the Nazi, the guy with his Totenkampf Nazi tattoo on his chest, the guy who apparently roughs up women, the guy who attacks Purple Heart recipients, the guy who says, if anybody comes into my house, I'm raping them. Literally said that out loud. I mean, this is one of, from what we have gathered in learning about Graham Plattner, the Democrats' presumptive candidate I say presumptive now because the main vote, voters still have to decide on this. But Graham Plattner, I think it's arguable from everything we've learned in the last few weeks about this lunatic, is just one of the worst people in the world. And I hate that phrasing. But because it just sounds so freaking obtuse, but just he's a bad person. He's a bad human. There's something mentally wrong with this individual. He is a very violent. He's a former Marine, by the way. But guess what? That doesn't absolve you of countless numbers of sins. But Graham Plattner is like I said, he's a part-time Nazi with the Nazi tattoo. A tattoo he's had for 18 years, proudly on his chest. He has posed for pictures with that tattoo. He called it his Totenkampf, and part-time communist. He admits to being a socialist, and as you know, socialism and communism are fruits of the same tree, and Marxism, and they all believe in the same thing. No private property, government in control, government distributing, collectivism, and so forth. So the guy is one of the worst people in the world. And in order to stop him, I don't know if I have a link on him or not. Maybe I don't. Because the latest on this guy is apparently, I should have one. Hold on. I'm going to try to pull it up to make sure, just to see for sure. But the latest on this guy is, a bunch of his former girlfriends. Yeah, here we go. I think I can share this one with you. A bunch of his former girlfriends or women that he dated have spoken out, and they've been talking to not some conservative news outlet that is doing a quote unquote political hit job, which is what the Democrats are calling this, but the New York Times, the old gray lady herself, left-wing, propaganda extraordinaire, is doing the reporting. And they have talked to a couple dozen of his former girlfriends, lady friends, dates, whatever. And they were terrified of him. They were terrified of him. Many of them got roughed up by him. Like I said, Plattner is saying, oh, this is all just, politics, and this is a gossip fest and so forth. And no, it is so much more than that. The New York Times reported, quote, In extensive conversations over the past 2 months, 3 other women who had been romantically involved with Plattner offered a far more complicated assessment describing volatile and toxic relationships that were unsettling and at times emotionally wrenching. They recalled he demeaned women and in one case physically threatened them, drank heavily, regularly cheated on them in relationships, put some of them in very aggressive, violent holds, ramming one's arm up behind her back before throwing her into her bedroom and locking her in the bedroom and not letting her out. Just very, domestically abusive type of stuff. And then more than that, one of them described what he called his warrior ethos, which is, you're in the military, okay, fine, but that means it's reserved for war, not for threatening to rape people who come into your house. He fantasized about killing people that he deemed a threat and said he would rape anybody who came into the house, not for sex or gayness, he said, but just for power. Holy cow. I would rape them to show that I'm dominant. I'm just looking at some of the quotes here. There's my Totenkampf, which is what his tattoo was, that everybody who has ever done any historical work whatsoever knows, what the Nazi tattoos were. And this guy got one on his body and had it for 18 years and proudly displayed it, but is trying to convince us he didn't know what it was. I first learned of it just like you guys did when I was running for office, and somebody showed my tattoo and said, hey, that's a Nazi. Wow. I've had a Nazi tattoo on my chest for 18 years and nobody told me? This is crazy. He wants you to believe that ish. I mean, it's incredible. Sorry, I'm kind of chasing the squirrel now, but my point is, of the 4 Senate Republicans who killed the SAVE Act, can I still share that? Sorry, I got to work back toward this again. Yeah, of the 4 Senate Republicans, one of them, as I was saying before, we actually have to support, and that's Susan Collins, only because we have to not allow some horrible, horrible, horrible human being like Graham Plattner. Trying to bring this back up for you here. Like I said, I'm flying solo today, so here we go. To allow him to become a part of the Senate. So Susan Collins is going to have to get our votes by default, or our support by default, and hope that the people of Maine vote for her just to keep this horrible person out of the Senate. But there are the 4: Collins, Murkowski, McConnell, and Tillis, killing the SAVE Act, the Safeguarding American Voter Eligibility Act. All right. It's about as important as anything gets. How do we know? Because what it would prevent is crap like what's happening right now in California. They had their primary on Tuesday. Today is Friday. They are nowhere closer to making, announcing winners and who made it to the runoffs, because they are going to continue to collect / manufacture / create new Democrat votes for days and days and days, because California allows unlimited, unrestricted mail-in voting with no proof of identity, no photo identification, no proof of citizenship. And all it takes is a postmark that says, yeah, no, I sent this in by primary day, by that date. I swear I did. It's, and Lord only knows who's postmarking those things after the fact. The point is they're going to, right now, Steve Hilton would be in the lead in the governor's race and on his way to the runoff in November, and he's a Republican in California. That can't be. So they're going to continue to manufacture more votes and say, we're still counting, until they get enough Democrat votes counted to say, oh, he didn't win. Same thing with Spencer Pratt in Los Angeles in the mayor's race. He should be in the runoff against Karen Bass, but they're going to continue to count new votes until he's not. That's just the only way Democrats can win elections anymore. Can that be any more clear? It's the only way they can win elections anymore. They've got to rig things. They've got to cheat. They've got to continue counting. They've got to make sure that, non-citizens are able to vote. They've got to make sure that, again, what did they want? One of the ICE reforms that they wanted before we got this thing passed yesterday in the funding is that no ICE agents would be allowed to be near polling places. Now, why would the Democrats not want federal law enforcement officers whose specialty is taking in illegal aliens Why would they not want them around polling places? I'm going to ponder that for a moment. Yeah, it's as obvious as you know it is. Okay? So that was one of the reforms they wanted. They did not get it. But the point is they have to cheat to win. And we, through the SAVE Act, could have prevented them from that kind of cheating, making sure that citizenship was proven before somebody could even register. And then once you do register, a photo identification to prove who you say you are, that you are who you say you are when it comes time to vote. You bring reforms like that into the entire country through the Save America Act, you end Democrat cheating. And that's why it won't happen. It's more than an 80-20. It's an 85-15 issue, according to a compendium of all of the polls. Okay, if you put them all together, it's an 85-15 issue, including Democrats. 85-15 want the Save America Act to pass, but there are 4 Republicans who sided with all the Democrats not to pass it. It's simply repugnant. A couple of lines from it. Let me see if I can get some quotes here. Senate Majority Leader John Thune. Let's see. It's a result that further solidified the political reality in the upper chamber that the Save America Act has little chance of passing, given the unanimous Democrat resistance and lack of total buy-in among the Senate GOP, even if Majority Leader Thune launched the long sought-after talking filibuster. This is what Bernie Moreno has said to me, too, by the way. Lindsey Graham challenged the Democrats to bat down the amendment, accusing them of being probably into cheating. Probably? In elections for not supporting voter ID. Lindsey Graham, of whom very few of us are fans, and most of the time we are not fans at all, but he's right sometimes. Quote, there's no other way to say you don't have to have an ID. It's just making cheating easier. Who wants a non-citizen voting in our election? If you're against that, that makes me wonder. He went on to say, biological males playing girl sport. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, biological males not playing girl sports is not good for anybody, and a minor should not be allowed to transition their sex. That's the biggest change you can make in your entire life. You shouldn't be allowed to do that as a minor. This is what we say. What do you say? So he was kind of touching on a number of items there. And then I'm just going to close it with this last line here in this Fox story. Alex Padilla, one of the lunatic Dems, said, quote, just over a month ago, a similar proposal was defeated on a bipartisan basis. Quote, current safeguards are working, and yes, it is already unlawful for non-citizens to vote in the United States. What this amendment does is mirrors earlier attempts to push through the president's priorities to take over elections, to ban vote by mail. You're goddamn right it does, Alex. We don't want vote by mail because that's not democracy. Your party is the one that is always banging your fists on the tables and saying, threat to democracy, threat to democracy. Well, then what do you call it when non-citizens don't have to prove that they are citizens to vote and then can just scribble a fake signature and send in a mail-in vote and have it be counted? In all seriousness, how can you possibly justify that? And then tell us you believe in democracy. You believe in the perversion of democracy. You believe in the abolition of democracy. Because if you don't have to prove that you're an American citizen when you cast a vote, that means anybody can cast a vote. And your legal citizen vote, my legal citizen vote, can be completely canceled out by a foreigner who came into this country without permission, or even somebody who is a legal resident but not a legal citizen and cannot vote. These people are going to cancel out the votes of actual citizens. And the Save America Act, like I said, 85-15. Democracy, anybody? 85% of Americans want it to secure American voter eligibility for only Americans. And the Democrats are not letting it happen. So it's just a huge couple of events that happened last night. I've got a lot more for you on the Free for All Friday front here, but I need to take this time out to remind you that we are partners with Americans for Prosperity. I want to say thank you to AFP and AFP Ohio. And I want to remind you of the huge event that's coming up in just a little over 2 weeks. It is Monday the 22nd. Monday the 22nd. Let me see if I can put this frame up here for you and actually make it work. Yeah, there we go. This is something that Donovan O'Neill, the state director of AFP, gave me yesterday. because I told him the natives were getting restless. A lot of the people that want to go to Columbus with us for one small step and a celebration of America 250 on Monday the 22nd are getting frustrated because they don't know where to register. I originally gave them a general registration page. Then I was told, no, Bob, you're going to have your own personal registration page so we know where people are coming from. And then we got to get people on a bus. And I said, okay, well, how do people do that? And they didn't know. And now they put it all together. And Donovan said, all right, we got it done. What do you think? So I need to make sure that, yes, it is done. There are 2 links on this graphic that you see on the screen right now. Obviously, you can't click it on your screen, but find this on my locals community page and on my Facebook pages. Okay. I've put it up there front and center as pinned posts on each of those particular platforms. And all you've got to do is go there. And as you can see, or hopefully you can see on the screen, step 1, register for the America 250 event. And there's a link there. Click it. And it's my personal link, the one that says you're coming here because of Bob Frantz, because of Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. So you got to register there. Then step 2, reserve your seat on the bus. After registering for the event, reserve your seat on the Bob Frantz bus by clicking that link. It was dead for a period of time yesterday. Some people tried to click it and send a message back to me and saying, now what do I do? And I said, I don't know. But then I sent it to Donovan and he said, it's been fixed. We put a short link in there now. It's a little bit easier. And it works because I checked it out last night. So it does work. And then number 3, wait for confirmation because the bus is limited to 54 seats and I get one of them. And I already know a whole bunch of other people who are going to have them. And that means it's fewer seats. That means there's going to be 40 seats and 30 seats and 20 seats available. It's a first come, first serve thing. The first people to sign up for it are going to get dibs on our bus. And I don't want anybody being shut out that wants to be on that bus. By the way, a couple of people I talked to yesterday said, Bob, I want to be there for this event, but I can't get on the bus because, in fact, one of them was the sheriff of Portage County, Bruce Zukowski, who reached out yesterday, called me and said, tell me what I got to do to be there, but I can't get on the bus because if I am needed, and he actually is on his way down to Columbus right now, I think he said. He's got some sheriff's organization that he's a part of, but he said, I've got to be mobile and I can't be trapped, by a bus driver if I've got to be somewhere to do his job, obviously, as the sheriff of the county. But he wants to know if he can just drive down on his own. Answer, yes, you can. But as I told Sheriff Zukowski, you've got to register first because you can't just get in without registration. It's limited in space to around 500-600 people who are coming from all over Ohio. There's going to be a bus from Southwest Ohio, Northwest Ohio, Central. They're bringing in, patriots from all over the state. And like I said, I want ours to be the best contingent. I want our bus to be packed to the gills. And I want everybody to come down there ready and willing to not only celebrate America 250, but to learn and to collaborate with others and come back ready to be activists in support of the one small step that it's going to take to make Ohio and this country what it needs to be and to protect and preserve that which it already is. So anyway, so Sheriff Zukowski is in. I talked to Mark yesterday. Mark King and his wife were in. I've got a whole host of conservatives I sent this link to yesterday. If it's not the one that, like I said, if it's one of the dead ones, my apologies for that. But I just want you to know that the link works now. So if you go to register, and by the way, if somebody else, my friend Mario Innocenzi from Mario's Barbershop, who's a very, very wonderful guy, a philanthropic patriot. I sent it to him and I said, Mario, you're going to be with us? And he said, I'm purchasing seats now on the bus. I said, stop. Got bad news for you. Number 1, you cannot purchase seats. Number 2, the good news is it's because it's free. Costs nothing. So, get your spot on that bus and get down there to be with us. And thank you to my friends at Americans for Prosperity for sponsoring and supporting this particular, let's fix that now. This, excuse me, live stream and podcast and this entire mission. Cannot do it without you and some of our other foundational partners. And by the way, if anybody else belonging to a strong conservative organization is looking for some more recognition and for some more promotion, and you want to partner with me, by all means, send me an email, bob@strictlyspeaking.org, bob@strictlyspeaking.org. AFP recognizes the power of this audience and the activist nature of this audience, size notwithstanding, and that's why they're here. And that's why I am an open door for other people to come in and other organizations to come in and support. All right. Free for All Friday continues now. I want to share this with you. This is a big deal. The the acting ICE director, let me do that again. The acting attorney general is Todd Blanche. He has been nominated now by President Trump, or is about to be, to take over the job on a full-time basis, to be no longer acting, but to actually have to be confirmed as Attorney General. Well, this isn't about his confirmation. This is about bringing justice to the state of Ohio, us, our state, and the massive amounts of fraud being perpetrated against Ohio taxpayers and federal taxpayers from all over the country. Just like we are being defrauded with our money when the Minnesota and the California stuff happens, we got people all over the country whose tax dollars are going to Ohio to pay for fraudulent services being provided by, again, the largely Somali population of Columbus, Ohio, or the Columbus area. So Todd Blanche, the acting AG, said this yesterday on behalf of the Department of Justice.
Today, the Department of Justice is announcing significant fraud enforcement in the state of Ohio, as well as a historic fraud-fighting partnership with state of Ohio officials, which is exactly how it should be in every state. One that can serve as a template partnership for other states in this country. We welcome everyone, everywhere, to team up with our fraud division and our federal partners and our U.S. attorney's offices to bring fraudsters to justice. I want to talk about a few cases that we're announcing today, and I think you'll agree with me that some criminals have gotten so bold, so audacious as to defraud the government of tens of millions of dollars. I'm just going to give a few examples right now. It should shock your conscience. Today, we unsealed a 32-count indictment against 2 state employees and 2 other co-conspirators for allegedly billing $30 million to the government for therapeutic behavioral services that were never provided. We've also unsealed an indictment charging 4 defendants in a scheme to defraud a COVID program. Again, these programs, as we all know, were meant to benefit small businesses and individuals struggling because of the pandemic. In total, between our state and federal partners, today we're announcing charges that were either unsealed today or over the past week against 14 defendants allegedly involved in fraud schemes targeting over $50 million here in Ohio. And again, these numbers are staggering, but just the tip of the iceberg, both here in Ohio and nationwide. Sadly, Ohio is facing some of the most significant fraud schemes in the country. Medicare fraud, pandemic relief fraud, even an international romance fraud scheme that I think you'll hear about shortly. And to meet this challenge, to meet this crisis, our response has been and will continue to be aggressive, comprehensive, and we will not stop until we fix this problem. I want to emphasize something about what the cases that we're bringing represent: a unified, statewide fraud-fighting effort that's firing on all cylinders.
So that's the new acting, or I'm sorry, I keep saying new. He's the acting Attorney General, Todd Blanche. He is also going to be apparently the Attorney General, Todd Blanche. He is President Trump's choice to continue on in that role on a permanent basis, or on a full-time basis, if you will. And I think he's doing I know a lot of people are not super big fans of his, just like a lot of people are not super big fans of Pam Bondi, of which I was one. But I think thus far, and maybe it's just by comparison, there are a hell of a lot more wheels in motion in getting justice done under Todd Blanche than there were previously under Pam Bondi. All right. So I think he's doing a fair job right now, maybe even a good job right now, based on what we can see in the press coverage. And in this one, it's huge. What's really important there in what you just heard from Blanche is that this is a very it's a drop in the bucket, I think he said. Okay, it is much, much, much bigger, the fraud in the state of Ohio. But these are the individuals we can announce right now that are being charged with multiple counts. One was a $30 million sting, and in several other $1 million stings, schemes. But it is just, again, the tip of the iceberg. There are going to be so many more of these individuals that are going to be held accountable, and they are just getting ramped up. I'm really interested in what he meant by the international romance fraud. I think that's what he said. Did you hear the same thing I heard? Not quite sure what that means, but it is going to be interesting. All right. More Free for All Friday stuff. Representative Max Miller is not always everybody's favorite representative. He and I have clashed on a few things. He's, of course, Ohio 7, including Strongsville, where we have a lot of people who are friends and fans of this show and the show I've done for the last 11 or 12 years. I've had Max Miller on, I can't tell you how many times, and most of the time we agree on things, but there are votes that he has made that have left a lot of real strong conservative people, myself included, scratching our heads and going, wait a minute, whose side are you on? And he has never failed to come on and have that debate with me and to explain himself. Even if I am going to disagree with him vehemently, he has explained himself. So I have some respect for Max Miller in that regard. Having said that, again, knowing that he's not everybody's favorite Republican, I want to give him massive kudos for this. If you did not hear about this yesterday, Max Miller had an open floor debate with Rashida Sharia Tlaib. And I point that out to people for a reason. You cannot spell Sharia, as in Sharia law, without the letters in Rashida. I don't think mom and dad were playing. I don't think it's coincidence. I think it's absolutely something that is intentional. This is one of the most vile, anti-Semitic, pro-terrorists individuals in the history of the United States Congress. I did not stutter. You see her there in that image wearing her little tablecloth thing. She is just 100% pro-terrorist organization. All right. Max Miller called her out for that yesterday. And I want you to watch.
Be clear. Hezbollah is a terrorist organization, the gentlelady from Michigan, and its members are butchers that you like to, hang out with to a certain extent. No nation can be fully sovereign when an armed group operates outside the authority of its elected. Oh, I'm sorry. Are we getting a little emotional?
Gentlemen will suspend.
Oh, gentlemen will suspend. I certainly believe you advocate for them. Yes, you advocate for terrorists on a daily basis.
What you can't hear from Sharia Tlaib off mic is she's saying, are you calling me a terrorist? Are you calling me a terrorist? And Max Miller, without backing down at all, said, you advocate for them. So what I would call her is a terrorist sympathizer. Okay? She is certainly a terrorist sympathizer. But saying that you hang out with and you support and advocate for is pretty much saying the same thing. And she is flipping her ish. She is so mad. She's yelling and wants this stricken from the record that she, a supporter of terrorists, is indeed a supporter of terrorists. She doesn't want that to be on the record. She wants to continue to be supportive of terrorists. She just doesn't want to be in the congressional record that she supports terrorists. And Max Miller wasn't backing down from it.
The House will be in order.
Advocate for a terrorist regime every single day from the Jenny lady from Michigan.
The House will be in order. The House will be in order.
You do associate yourself with them.
Colleagues.
Listen to that lunatic screaming from the other side of the chamber, as Max Miller says, you advocate for them, you hang out with them, you support them. Hezbollah is a terrorist regime. It is worse than Hamas. For those who don't know, it was Hamas who committed the worst atrocity against Jews in Israel on October 7, 2023. But that was, I don't want to say the exception, because Hamas is a fearsome terrorist machine in its own right, aimed at the destruction of Israel. But Hezbollah, from the Lebanon side of things, which is north, Hezbollah attacks Israel even more. They are a worse Iran-supported terrorist organization than even Hamas is. Okay, worse than the Houthis. And Max Miller is calling it out, and Rashida Sharia Tlaib backs them at every opportunity. And now he's calling her out on it, and she's screeching like a banshee that she wants that stricken from the record.
Colleagues. This is a serious topic. We will debate it respectfully and deliberately. Is the gentlewoman from
Still
Michigan
screeching.
making a motion to take down?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I am. That is a direct attack on my character.
You have no character. You're a terrorist sympathizer. What character? What character is being attacked? When you are a supporter of Hezbollah and Hamas, and you are, from the river to the sea, you have been chanting from the river to the sea. Do you know what that means? That means drive the Jews from the Jordan River into the Mediterranean Sea and then take their land from them. It's anti-Semitism of the worst kind, the genocidal kind, and you chant it and you stand with those who support it. You're concerned about an attack on your character? How about developing some character and not being a terrorist sympathizer, Sharia?
I please
Gentleman from
request
Ohio will
to
be
strike
seated.
the words down.
Gentleman from Ohio will
It
be
was.
seated.
So Sharia
No
Tlaib,
member is currently recognized for debate. The gentleman from Ohio will be seated.
so first of all, to Max Miller, Congressman Max Miller, thank you for standing up and stepping up and saying what needs to be said about terrorist sympathizers like her. That was huge. I was very, very, very happy to see that. And quite frankly, very surprised to see that. Nobody has really done that and needs to do that. All right. Secondly, she wants to strike down Max Miller's comments about her being a terrorist sympathizer, the same way she wanted Jews to be struck down on October 7th. She is a terrorist sympathizer. Again, you cannot spell Sharia without R-A-S-H-I-D, Rashida, R-A-A-Rashida. Seriously, the whole word Sharia is contained within her first name, and I do not believe it's an accident whatsoever. And she has come here into the United States Congress, into our legislature, and brought her Sharia law dreams with her. She has been a terrorist sympathizer from the beginning, and everybody needs to know that. All right. I take a look at my green room right now, and I do see my guest standing by, so I'm going to take a very short time out here after I remind you of our friend, Mark King, and keeping Medicare simple. Mark is going to be on the bus. Mark and his beautiful wife are going to be a part of our trip to Columbus to celebrate America 250. Again, that is a very exclusive ticket to be on that bus. It's completely free of cost. But if you want to be on that bus with us, which will depart from Strongsville for Columbus on June 22nd, you've got to register the way Mark is. Go to my locals channel, or my locals community, I should say, off of the Rumble channel, and find the link there. You can also find it on my Facebook pages, Strictly Speaking with Bob Frantz, and just Bob Frantz personal page, but it is public. Mark is going to be there. And that's fantastic because he is a true patriot. And best of all, he is a true advocate for senior citizens. For nearly 4 decades, Mark has been guiding senior citizens through the complexities of Medicare and doing what his company calls it, keeping it simple. Taking something that is complex and making it simple for people is a talent. And Mark has that. And he's been working so hard. He's dedicated. I've known Mark for a little over 5 years. And from the first time I met him and learned about how he does things and what he does, I started referring people to him, and I've been referring seniors to him ever since. And I have not yet had one person come to me and said, man, that wasn't the right place for me. Mark will do it right for you. He will help you understand parts A, part B, part D, the cost, all of the benefits available to you, what the lowest costs are for you. He represents multiple carriers, so he has no financial benefit steering you into the wrong place because it's good for him. Not a chance. He's going to help you make the right decision for you based on your needs as a senior and as a patient in the cases that they are. All right, so if you are already in Medicare, you should probably get a checkup and make sure you're in the best possible plan. You don't have to wait for an enrollment period to talk to Mark about that, okay? If you are not in Medicare yet, but you're turning 65 this year, so it's a coming, you want to make sure you know what's going on. Call that phone number you see on your screen right now, 440-832-8936. You'll talk to Mark personally. He'll help you get squared away and make sure that you understand everything that you need to know about Medicare. He keeps it simple, like I said, and I've been telling people for over the 5 years that I've known him that I trust Mark King when it comes to Medicare, and I know that you can too. All right, quick time out. Then we're going to come back with our guest, Ray Simon. Stay right here. Free for All Friday continues on Strictly Speaking Unfiltered right after this.
vest on, boots laced, another name on the paper, another hard case. And got a wife back in Lubbock, kids in their Sunday best. I ain't some villain in a movie, I'm a man doing my best. You could scream in my face and block my way, but this badge on my chest means somebody's safe today. You hold that sign, I hold this line in my hands. While you chanting the street, I'm the one who stands. Yeah, you draw your crowd, I draw a line in the sand. Saw you playing for cameras, shoving phones in my crew, spitting words like traitor, like you know what we go through. When you circle that transport like it's some kind of game, there's a scared little girl in the backseat, you don't even know her name. You can scream in my face and block my way, but this badge on my chest means somebody's safe today. You hold that sign, I hold this line in my hands. While you're chanting the street, I'm the one who stands. Yeah, you draw your crowd, I draw a line in the sand.
All right, it is straight up 8 o'clock, hour number 2 underway now. Thank you for the short break there that I needed just to kind of get set for our next guest. After that Sharia Tlaib takedown by Max Miller, well, that was extraordinary. I loved every second of that. I want to get into something a little bit more uplifting now. And I'm telling you what, you see the paintings behind me. I've talked to you about these for some time now. All right, be quiet. We're done with the music. I told you my engineer guy is not here today. He's having some tech problems on his side, so we're kind of flying solo, so bear with me. Look at the paintings behind me. I've had these for, I don't know, almost a year. No, not even. 5 months, I think it was. I think it was January. When I was made aware of Ray Simon's extraordinary art, and his great friend and publicist and manager, Ken Markovich, met me and presented me with these two things. The first time I ever met Ray Simon was at an event where we were both appearing, and Ray was just so gracious, and so was Ken. And he showed me these paintings, and I was so taken with them. I just had to have one. And they were both kind enough to actually gift me one of each of my two favorites. The one of President Trump that you see there hangs in no, I'm sorry, I got to get him right. The one of President Trump, I believe, hangs in Mar-a-Lago, or vice versa, or Charlie Kirk's painting hangs in Mar-a-Lago. The other is in the White House. I think Charlie Kirk's is in Mar-a-Lago, so I'm going to check in on that. But I was just blown away by those. And when you look at them up close, they're extraordinary. And I've been telling you to go to raysimon.art for some time now. And let me bring that up. Excuse me. Let me bring that up, in fact. If you want to spend a few minutes scrolling something that will amaze you and inspire you at the same time, you need to visit raysimon.art. That's the website that I have there. And there's a gallery button up at the top there that you absolutely, and you can see, the different categories. You will be blown away when you see the work of this extraordinary artist. And he is so extraordinary, as a matter of fact, that there is an event coming up on Flag Day, which just so happens to be President Trump's birthday, at the Trump Kennedy Center. And it's going to be a private reception and a viewing of Ray Simon's art. It is, this is such an extraordinary honor, just to let you know what a massive, massive star he is in the art world. And it's not just his talent, it's his patriotism, because so many of his works are inspired by faith and by love of country. And that's what I love about it. And that's why I'm honored now to bring to the program Hold on a second. I want to make sure that you were seeing what I wanted you to see. Okay, you did see that part. Okay, sorry about that. I just wanted, like I said, I'm kind of doing hosting and engineering at the same time right now. But let me welcome to the program the artist himself, Mr. Ray Simon, joining us here on Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. And there he is.
You're in the show. Everyone can see you and hear you. Can
Ray,
you hear me,
hear
Bob?
me? I hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
Oh boy. Okay. That's got to be on. Yeah, there's got to be a mute button maybe, or a speaker or headphone dial that you might want to check, because I hear you loud and clear. So okay, I'm going to let Ray work on that. Okay, I'm going to let Ray work on that. Let's take that camera off right now until I figure out he figures out what's going on there. This is a sometimes problem for some folks for whatever reason. In fact, who was it earlier this week? It was Mark Sutherland. Mark Sutherland came on with us on Wednesday, I think it was, and Mark wasn't able to hear. And then he realized, oh crap, he had his own headphone volume down where he was. So I'm going to hope that Ray gives me the thumbs up and lets me know that he's good. I'm going to try this again. Let's see if he's there now or can hear me now. Ray, can you hear me now? Okay, he's still working on it, it looks like, but hopefully we're going to get that. We're going to get that resolved. I don't want to dwell on it, but I want you to see what he's doing.
Say something.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you, Ray. Can you hear me? Okay, he's still tinkering with it. Anyway, yeah, Mark Sutherland had the same thing. Then he realized that his earbud volume was down, or his headphone volume was down, and he just had to turn it up. So it's probably something simple like that. But again, I don't want to presume, but I'm just going to wait for Ray to get it done. You know what I'm going to do? There are two paintings in particular, two new murals that Ray did that are going to be featured at the Trump Kennedy Center on the 14th. That's what he's here to talk about. So I don't want to show you those until he's ready to go. But what I can do, and what I should do, is show you a little bit about his other work and that gallery of his. So let me kind of give you just a little bit of a taste of Ray Simon's art by loading this page up while he works on his audio situation. Okay, he's looks like I think he's trying to reconnect, but I'll let you know when that's ready. But I want you to just kind of experience a little bit of this with me. I'll see if I can zoom these up a little bit. Maybe not that much. Well, that'll work though. If you take, okay, hold on a second. I just heard a bleep, which means he might be back on. Ray?
I got
Ray,
you.
Can you hear me now, Ray?
Yes, I could. Thank you. I'm sorry about that. I don't know what happened. It just I heard your whole show, and then all of a sudden you vanished. Kind of like we wanted Khalid to vanish forever. Forever.
Yes.
I'm watching your show this morning, and I'm saying to myself, yeah, I was down in my studio painting, and I watched that happen live. And just so you know, Bob, I'm Lebanese, Maronite Catholic Lebanese.
God
Hamas
bless.
and Hezbollah, I have a lot of relatives in Lebanon. Hamas and Hezbollah are no friends. Have never. They are pure, unadulterated evil. And no matter what they're going to try to sell you that they protect people over there, they don't. I have cousins that fought in the Lebanese Christian army against them. Lebanon at one time was mostly Christian at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And then back when Reagan was in office, that the war broke out. And in fact, and I wanted to mention this to you, when I was with President Trump with JJ Cafaro about a month and a half ago, Ken Markovich was there. And President Trump works out of the box, and I think that's why he's so unique. And I love him. I love him dearly. All that being said, he looked at both, and I'm not making this up. This is as sure as night succeeds the day. He looked at both JJ and I, because from what I understand, President Trump asked people certain questions that he shouldn't be asking them the questions, because their opinions really don't matter. But he just likes to get an overflow of every common person from bricklayer to artist to physician to engineer. So he looks at both JJ and I and he says, well, guys, what do you think? Because right before we got into engaged a war with Iran, he said, should I bomb Iran? And JJ Cafaro, you know the Cafaro family.
Yes.
We looked at her and I said, you know what, Mr. President, in 1983, when Ronald Reagan was president and Hamas, supported by Iran, who killed 326 Marines when they blew up the Marine barracks, I said, had Ronald Reagan and Israel put a huge base in southern Lebanon, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And he
That's
looked
a
at me and he
very good
said,
point.
you know what, you're right. You're absolutely right. If had President Reagan, which I loved and supported, put a military base in southern Lebanon, none of this would be going on right now.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear you say that, Ray. And talking about being a Lebanese, one of my best friends is also a Lebanese Catholic, by the way. And we talk all the time about what some of his family and friends and others have gone through, and some people that he knows that are still there are going through. Hezbollah is not only a terror for Israel, they're a terror for innocent Lebanese people. This new peace deal that was just agreed to a couple of days ago by between Israel and Lebanon, negotiated by the president or by the United States, I fear is not going to do much to protect the Lebanese people, because it's not Lebanon that Israel is at war with. It's Hezbollah, which is Iran, essentially. And they have made life so miserable for the Lebanese people. And people need to understand the battle isn't with the Iranian people. The battle isn't with the Lebanese people. The battle isn't with innocent Gazans, except for maybe the ones that voted to give Hamas the power they have. The point is, these terror groups have made life, put so many people in jeopardy who are not a part of the actual attacks or the war with Israel.
In my opinion, Bob, I don't think, and I always try to be optimistic, but in this case, Hamas does not know, or Hezbollah and Hamas does not know what it's like to give their word.
No. Oh, did he just drop off? He did. Oh, goodness gracious. We finally had audio, we finally had video, and now something got bumped or something got clicked. And now we're going to have to come back to Ray once again. Hopefully that is a temporary problem. And in the meantime, I'll do what I was going to do before we had that problem, which is show you some of the extraordinary works. This is going to be personal to the Northeast Ohio people. Take a look at this one. This one is USS Cleveland, Forge a Legacy. And in addition to the phenomenal work that Ray does on these extraordinary paintings, there's always a backstory. He's got like a little biographical story of the work, as you can see here in just the very beginning. It's a powerful tribute to the city of Cleveland, its founder and proud lineage of American naval vessels that have carried the USS Cleveland name across the world's oceans. At the center of the painting is General Moses Cleveland, towering over the scene like a bronze figure woven into the sky itself. Can you really see that? I hope you can see that close enough to appreciate. Yeah, let me do that. Let me see if, and hopefully we'll get Ray back on very shortly. But just take a look at it looks like a photograph, and it's not. This is Ray's art. This is Ray's painting. It just specializes in these types of murals, if you will. And let me see if I can go back now and just give you just a brief, quick look at some of these, and their titles too. The Christ in the arms of his mother, taken down from the cross, called Mercy. That's Charlie Kirk one that you see over my shoulder whenever I have the full screen going. That is the President Trump one, called The Awakening, that I have shown you as well. That one is also behind me, on the wall behind me. Look at these extraordinary works. You've got to take some time. I can't just go to each one right now. It would take up a couple of shows to really talk about all of these works. But do it yourself. When you get a moment, go to raysimon.art and go to the gallery link that you see there, and then click full gallery, and you'll see what I'm talking about. I think Ray is back on now. I heard a little bleep or blip, but I don't see him. So maybe not just yet. And if I have to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you. Oh, I heard it again. Okay, let's see if he's there now. Ray, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I apologize.
Okay, that's all right. I'm just glad you fought your way back in here because I want to talk about your art. We could talk about the geopolitical issues in the Middle East for a long time to come. But let's get into your art, Ray. And I want to talk, first of all, congratulations to you for this honor. Tell us about how this whole thing came about, what's happening at the Trump Kennedy Center on Flag Day.
Well, we went down to Mar-a-Lago. Both Ken Markovich, Joe Korf, and myself went down to Mar-a-Lago. When there was I was one of the guest speakers for Mike Lindell, who's running for governor in Minnesota. And Ken, as Ken Markovich networks, he networks like I've never seen before, but he ran into this
The
lady,
great.
Rose. Oh yeah. And she saw the artwork and she was just engaged because what's unique, and I'm one of, I'm my artwork is okay. That being said, what the reason why we're busy, is for the simple fact, Bob, that I take American historical history and I bring it to life into the world today and how it's changed the world that we live in today. And I think that's one of the problems with what the far left is doing. They have no clue about history. They have no clue. All they have one clue, all they understand is that they got instructed to be at this place at this time, and when they're done doing what they do, they got to go pick up a check, and that's it. And that's pretty despicable. I can't lay my head on a pillow. If it was about making money, I certainly wouldn't be painting about God and country. I want Ken to gift you the painting I did of President Washington. The original is in the George Washington Presidential Library because it tells a beautiful story about America, how America took her place on the world stage in 1917, which ended World War I, and ended it in 1918, that began in 1914. So these are the stories when President George Washington said, Bob Frantz, this: the preservation and the sacred fire of liberty and the destiny of the Republican model of government are justly considered deeply, perhaps as finally, staked on this great experiment entrusted into the hands of the American people. It was so innovative back then what they did. And it truly was divine providence, divine intervention. The title of that painting is Divine Providence, which goes back to Genesis from the Old Testament. But George Washington looked at this continent, Bob Frantz, as God's corporate headquarters, God's foothold to implement civil liberties and freedoms throughout the world. And that's the history that we need to understand. Because had America not been in place, had the Industrial Revolution that wielded the great arsenal of democracy that ended World War I in 1918, when we entered in 1917, that started in 1914, and then we took the world stage in 1945, you would not have a free Germany, Italy, France, Japan, South Korea, Great Britain would have fell. The world today would be unrecognizable. In fact, the Smashing Pumpkins have a song that's called "The World is a Vampire." And we also, in the same breath, need to mention that America came at a great cost to the indigenous American natives and slaves, unknowingly, unwillingly. Their sacrifice is a huge part of the free world as we know it today. And I was on NPR radio, and I'll just stop after this comment.
Okay.
But when a lady called in and she was complaining about the Enola Gay, and I said, most of us listening will die in a hospital with morphine. Most of us, you, me, all of us will end up in a hospital dying. But if somebody came up to you and said, you have the opportunity to die right now for a cause that is unjust in your mind right now, but it's far greater than you can ever imagine, affecting millions and billions of people throughout the world, I'm signing up.
Amen.
That's just me.
That's amen. God bless you, Ray. And I wanted to throw that one up there since you were talking about divine providence real quick. So I hope people got a chance to see that. And I want to tell people too, because Ken has been so kind, ever since I first met you and Ken and was gifted the paintings behind me. I've been trying to tell people about your work, and Ken has been kind enough to say there's a discount if you use a promo code with my last name, 10% off anything in the Ray Simon Gallery on the website at raysimon.art. And can you
And then
imagine?
also, Bob, I will personally sign with a gold enamel pen anything that's bought through your show, and I'll make
That's
that promise to you. And look at that real quick, Bob. Look at that George Washington painting. You see the fox in the wheat field looking over its shoulder?
I do. Hold on. Let me zoom in a little bit here.
Right there, looking over its shoulder
Right
in the
here.
wheat
Right
field.
here. Hope people can see my cursor circling in there.
Welcome to the Second Battle of Trenton at Assumption Creek, where British General Cornwallis had George Washington pinned down, told his men, I could see the reflection of their camps along the water behind him. They're surrounded. Cornwallis told his men, the revolution is over. Go to sleep. Tomorrow morning, we might kill him, flog him, who knows what, but it's over. So what did Washington do? At 3:30 in the morning, he told his guys, stoke the fire, put the kettles on the fire, take your coats, make more tents. He snuck 930 men out at 3:30 in the morning. Cornwallis wakes up. He's yawning in the morning. The old saying back then, you learn to love to hate the British, right? He gets up there. What does he say? That bloody old sly fox done it again. They were all gone. So, we should have never beat the British.
No.
So we should have never beat the British, for God's sake. And the second turning point in that path in the back of that painting? That's the Battle of Saratoga, the turning point in the American Revolution, where British General General Burgoyne surrendered 7,000 of his men to General Howe. And what did Washington tell? They couldn't get that letter fast enough to Benjamin Franklin to give it to King Louis XVI. King Louis XVI sent a letter to Marquis Lafayette and his military and says, give her what she needs to assure her victory. She looks like she has a chance. So, I mean, the painting just goes on in that path of that girl across the path.
Yeah.
You see in the wheat field that represents great resources, you see 4 blossoms of the larkspur flower. The Romans gave months and meanings to wildflowers. That's called the July birth flower. There's 4 blossoms, the Declaration of Independence. The young girl across the path holding the flag of today, ghosted over the wheat field, the 13 stars, the humble beginning. She's releasing 13 doves, the separate but combined journey of the individual colonies. The first dove has an olive branch for peace, and on the talons is holding a ribbon of Thomas Paine's first letter in the series called The American Crisis, of which Washington stood on the banks of the Delaware in knee-high snow, motivated his troops when he said, these are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot in this crisis will shrink in the service of the countrymen. It is those gentlemen who have the heart desire for a free nation that will defeat the British. What did they do? They trekked 10 miles of knee-high snow, and they decimated the British-hired German Hessian troop, and at that time was the most fearsome military force on planet Earth. And we beat them, and we won. We should have never won the American Revolution, but it was God's hand that intervened. And I'll just end by saying this. You need to understand what happened in American history to understand the political arena today, because while Charlie Kirk was living, I was asked to be a speaker at 2 turning points. And Ken Markovich and I met at the one of the meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody raised their hand and said, well, America's is based on Christian values. I said, well, you're partially correct. It was based on Judeo-Christian values. But here's what I find interesting. It's those Judeo-Christian values that put a clad iron umbrella over America that allows you, Bob, or me I could worship my dog. I could worship my cup of coffee. I could worship whatever I want to worship. Go to Iran and try that and tell me how that works out for you.
Ray, you're blowing my mind right now. I knew about your talent. I knew about your paintings, and I knew the stories behind them, particularly the 2 that I have here. I did not know the depth of you as an American historian. your knowledge of not just the American Revolution, but just general history, that has to be how you do what you do, right? I mean, you can't ask a magician to divulge his secrets. You can't ask an artist, how do you paint? But you seem to be almost divinely inspired. I'm going to tell you something else. The one that we were just looking at, the one of Washington, I just now saw as I stared at as you were talking and giving us the history. And by the way, every word 100% correct. There's no reason whatsoever we would have and should have won that war. We should not have won our liberty. There's no way. But just as you were talking, I noticed the flag. I mean, I looked at the wheat field as wheat. I just now noticed the stripes and the stars in the dark behind it. You know, it's literally the landscape as a flag. I didn't even see that part of it. I didn't know about the 13 doves representing the colonies. I didn't know the story of the fox. Everything that you just did blew my mind, Ray.
Well,
I want to know how you come up with that. Again, I'm not supposed to ask the unanswerable question, but where do you find the inspiration for that?
You know, I love America, and I love God in America. I put God in America. I fell in love with God in America at a very early age. And if you looked in that painting, it's a young girl. Her clothing is one period after Washington, representing a generation yet to come. Women who are the bearers of life, women who procure humanity's future. They are the caregivers of the world. And if you think about how women are treated in Iran, it is, if and this is terrible to say, but I'm going to say it. If Satan had an address, it'd be in Iran right now. If Satan had an address to where you're going to mail him a card, send it to Iran. He'll get it. All that being said,
I concur.
They're just, it's pure unadulterated evil. And America came at such a fragile time, and with the innocence, and America was never perfect. When my paintings were on display, Bob Frantz, at the National Archives in Washington, D.C., I was with 9 Tuskegee Airmen. 9. And Captain William F. Hollerman II looked at me and says, Ray, America was never perfect. She may be the most perfect country on this planet, but she was never perfect. But we all need to hold her hand as she continually gets well. There's so much dissension coming from the far left. And I said this in a podcast just a few days ago. Do you remember, Bob Frantz, the commercial with Ringo Starr when he said, "This is not your father's Oldsmobile"? Early
Yes,
90s. My mother and father were Democrats. We were all Democrats in Mahoning
So were
County.
mine. So were mine.
Youngster, right, blue. This is not my mother and father's Democratic Party. And I continue and tell people, if Fred Sanford had a sister, it'd be my mother. And I can tell you this, Bob Frantz, when we got out of line, if I told my mother in 5th grade at St. Ed's that I wanted to join and play for the girls' volleyball team, she'd get a small wooden baseball bat. And she'd say, "Come here, you son of a, I'll show you." And she would, my dad, World War II veteran, Battle of the Bulge, Invasion of Normandy, Battle of the Bulge, never said 2 words. My mother, Fred Sanford's sister, she would think twice about punching you. So all I'm saying is the Democratic Party left us. And think about this, Bob Frantz, who in the Democratic Party, except one person who I take ownership because I was totally wrong, was Fetterman. Senator Fetterman is the only one standing up. Remember the old saying, Bob Frantz, only the dead fish swim with the stream?
Yes.
He's not a dead fish. You're not a dead fish. I'm not a. Ken Markovich is not a dead fish. The reason why Ken and Joe Korf got involved with me is because I put American values. America was never perfect. Listen, if you're old enough to transition or you do what you want to do, but let kids be kids. Little boys shouldn't be playing in girl sports. Let kids be kids. And when you can't, you've heard this 1,000 times. You can't drink liquor till you're 21, smoke cigarettes till you're 21, go to rated R movie till you're 18, drive a car till you're 60. But when you're 12 years old, we can transition you. And I just love when people say, well, that doesn't happen that often. Oh, it most certainly does happen way more often than you think. And you remember what Democrats used to say, one's too many. Where are they at now?
That is such a great point. Ray Simon is our guest. Ray is just a world-renowned artist. He's a Northeast Ohio native, as you just heard, and he's got the honor of a lifetime at the Trump Kennedy Center coming up on Sunday, the 14th, Flag Day, President Trump's 80th birthday. And Ken tells me, Ray, there are two new paintings that are going to be featured, and I want to show them now. I'm going to take both of us off the screen so we're not distracted away from the work, and I want you to tell me what we are looking at. So here's the first one. And I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to take away our backgrounds here. So bear with me as I try to, let's see, I have to go here and then I have to go here. There we go. Okay. So Ray, this is the first one. I can't really zoom it because of the limitations of the tech right now where I am. This isn't on a different screen. This is on our screen. Tell me what we are looking at.
December 16th, 1944. Actually, the 101st Airborne were sent to the Ardennes to rest. My father being one of them. Johnny Morris, who owns Bass Pro, his father was sent there to rest. Germany needed one last effort. Hitler rolled the dice and threw everything he had in his arsenal to pierce through the northern shoulder of the Battle of the Bulge in 1944. Everything he had. It was his last gamble. Had he been successful, Bob Frantz, this is what I find interesting. Had he been successful, it would have gave Germany another 18 months of life. In that period, they were close. They were developing missiles that can launch from a German U-boat. They were so, and they were off during World War II. They were off the coast of Miami and New York all the time. They were actually working. They were far away, but they were working on developing heavy water in Norway, a nuclear bomb. So they gave everything. So I put Johnny Morris. You see the P-51D Mustang flying over top. You see Johnny Morris's father in the foxhole, December 16th, 1944. It's generally about 18 degrees every year, sometimes 0 in Bastogne. He's writing a letter, dear Mom and Dad, I'm writing this letter to wish you Merry Christmas and to tell you how much I really miss you. And if you think about, put yourself into that foxhole at night, out of post. You're in the Ardennes, which are full of pines. He took a broken pine branch to the right of him, and he made a makeshift Charlie Brown Christmas tree and decorated it with M1 shells. And this is all through the art. I put myself in his father's shoes. Did his father do that? Probably not. But I'm certain some people think about how heartbroken how much would you be thinking about home December 16th, 1944? It was the longest battle of World War II. It ended January 26th, 1945. You see the soldier, his father, my father was a medic, his father was a medic, kneeling down, giving a piece of chocolate to a young girl. And she handed the native flower in Bastogne is, you remember during World War I, Flanders Field, poppies. You see the red poppy. Children, you would give flowers to American soldiers in order to get a piece of what they call chocolate. And if you look at the helmet upside down to the left, underneath Johnny Morris in the foxhole, the Malmedy massacre, and you see the SS pin. What happened in that instance is they captured 148 American soldiers. According to the Geneva Convention, they should have taken them captive. But what the SS, the Wehrmacht, did is they put them in an open field of snow, and they just gunned them down. 38 escaped into the woods. When General McCullough found out about that, that's why you see the SS pin in the snow. He said, the minute you see an SS officer, the minute you see him, there's no questions, just put a bullet in their head, kill them instantly. No questions asked. That's why the SS officers took their pins off and threw them away, because they didn't want to be recognized. And you see the famous story of when Hitler sent in the German general for the unconditional surrender. And they sent 3 German officers a mile outside of camp where General McCullough was based at, to give him and what the famous notorious saying with General McCullough, because he was a Southern Baptist, he didn't swear. What did he say? Nuts. He writes down nuts on a sheet of paper. The American envoy walks a mile outside of camp, gives them to the German officers, and the German officers, who spoke perfect English, says, "What does nuts mean?" They looked at me and says, "Means go to hell and F you." Because General McCullough didn't swear. He was a Southern Baptist. You see the bottom of the tank, Patton's 4th Armored Division at the bottom of the right of the painting. Piercing, that's who pierced the line. What I find interesting is Montgomery, British General Montgomery, tells Dwight D. Eisenhower, there is no way that George Patton is going to get there in 3 days. Ain't going to happen. Impossible. What did Patton do? He got there in 3 days, pierced through between the P-51D Mustangs, the Canadian Falker to the right. You see the Canadian flag on the plane, and General Patton's 4th Armored Division. And if you look in the back, the second tank in the back, that's where the Black Panthers got their start. The Black Panthers were a division, the 7th 41st Division under George Patton's 4th Armored Division, and their tagline was "Come out fighting." And there was no segregation within Patton's 4th Armored Division. You say, okay, people that are African American tanks go over here, and the Caucasian tanks go. No, and they fought valiantly. We pierced through the line, and guess what happens? January 26th, Germany, they get defeated at Bastogne. May 7th, they surrender. May 7th, Germany surrenders. It's over.
Ray,
those are the values we need to understand. The young people need to understand in order to look what's going on today and saying, you're full of crap. And you're not. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I could listen to you wax historic about all of this for a long time, and to look at every single piece of that painting and break down every single meaning in it. I'm just blown away by it. Again, it's one thing to have the talent with a brush. It's another thing to have the inspiration and the historical military knowledge that you have as well. It's just incredible. And what I want people to know right now is what we're looking at here is not something the size of what's behind me. That is, if what I read from Ken is correct, that's a 14-foot long mural. Is that right, Ray?
Yeah. Lee Greenwood unveiled it down at Springfield, Missouri, in front of 5,000 people at Bass Pro. And before he unveiled it, he sang "Proud to be an American," and then he unveiled it. And then I got a chance to tell the story of the painting. And if you notice to the right, Bob Frantz, look at the American eagle soaring over the continent of Europe today, a free Europe, clasping on the dog tags of those left behind who never made it home. But now they get a chance to see why they sacrificed their lives and what they died for a free Europe.
Wow. Ray, I'm just, again, a 14-foot long mural. And that's just one of the 2 features that you're going to have on the 14th at the Trump Kennedy Center. This is the second one. So I want to show this now. I want to give this a few minutes here as well for you to tell us exactly what we're looking at. This is now, is this another 14-footer? I don't know the specifics of this one.
10 foot, 12 foot. I'm sorry, 12 foot.
So this is a 12-foot wide mural. And again, just take it away. You're a historian. Let's listen.
Well, it's you see to the left, you see George Washington and the humble beginnings of this great nation. Thomas Jefferson. I mean, I tell you, I'll say one thing, Bob Frantz. God assembled a lot of great people, to give birth to a nation that was going to be God's corporate headquarters. And God's objective was to implement civil liberties and freedoms throughout the world. And that's what essentially happened and every historian will tell you, had America not been a place, the world would be unrecognizable today. And you see Betsy Ross weaving the flags. You see Manifest Destiny, the wagon wheel, and it gives you thought about what Lincoln went through when you talk about the Kansas Nebraska Act that came into play after the Missouri Compromise, was the South um, didn't agree with the Missouri Compromise, which ignited the Civil War because they were making so much money off of slavery down in the South. And then the South implemented the Kansas Nebraska Act that says that every new state is manifest destiny going out west. They can choose if they want to be a slave state or not. And Lincoln said no. Abraham Lincoln never liked slaves. Never liked, I'm sorry, slavery. It was
Slavery.
never, yeah, I apologize. Never liked slavery. And that's why he's during his presidency, 1863, what did he say? At the Gettysburg Address, we must not be enemies, but friends. We must remain friends, though our passions may have strained. It cannot break our bonds of affection. We're all American, with malice towards young, toward none, charity for all, with firmness in the right, as God gives us to see the right. Let us strive to finish the work we're in and bind the nation's wounds. So I painted Abraham Lincoln walking hand in hand with Dr. Martin Luther King. What a tremendous man, two people that I idolize is Abraham Lincoln, Dr. Martin, and who Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. None of them were perfect. None of them were perfect. But look what they accomplished. Abraham Lincoln took the snowball of civil liberties at the top of the mountain that was frozen and nudged it. It's still rolling forward. The 13th Amendment laid the foundation for the 14th, 15th, and 19th Amendment. Actually, the Gettysburg Address, actually the Emancipation Proclamation was the jolt that led to the Gettysburg Address, that led to the 13th Amendment. It was just a continuous story. So again, America was never perfect, but we're on a journey. I just listened to Bob Maher say, you know what? There are more African Americans today starting their own business than ever in the history of this nation. In the Democratic Party, for some unusual reason, Bob Frantz, they just want to tear it down. That painting goes through the entire history of America. In a general swipe, there's a lot of things that aren't in it that should be in it, but there's a lot of things that are in that painting that really just give you a genuine look. How I address the future with AI. You see,
I was going to ask you about that. That was
around the child.
Yeah, that's one of the things that jumped out at me.
AI.
Yeah.
The future.
Yeah.
President Trump's mission to colonize Mars, to set the things up on the moon that we need to set up so we could leapfrog to Mars. You got the Wright brothers. You got the B-20, the stealth bomber, Thomas Edison in that painting.
I see it.
There's so much ghosted, very subtly ghosted into that painting, that just a flavor of America in her greatness and all her faults.
So, Ray, let me ask you one more time the unanswerable. Do you get visions about all of these different things that it's one thing to have the talent, it's another thing to conceive of the idea. And
hold on 1 second, Bob. I lost your signal. Hold on.
Okay. Can you hear me? Hope his battery didn't die. Oh, his battery may have dropped out, because literally he just dropped off the entire. Okay, maybe he's back. Okay, let's see. Are you back, Ray?
Yeah, were you able to hear when I was talking?
Not during that brief last second or two when your mic dropped off, but yes, I heard your explanation all the way through Edison and everything that you just described.
Awesome.
So what I want to ask you, Ray, is again, where this inspiration comes from, because it's, as you described everything in that painting, and at the very end you talked about some of it is ghosted into the image, into the background. It's like there are so many layers of complexity. It's not just a painting, and it's not just here are some random things throughout history hodgepodged all over the place. You're weaving together like a tapestry of history that is extraordinary. And I just want to know, like, how do you come up with these ideas, much less have the talent to put them to, to canvas?
Since I don't do any of it, I told Father Noga, I said, do you think God is tired of me? I said, Father Noga, I asked God, and that's serious. I can get Father Noga on the phone right now. And he laughs. He goes, I said, do you think he's tired of me? Because I'm always using my go-to card every month. I live month to month, and for 30 years, I put everything in God's hands. You think he's saying, oh, Jesus, Ray again. Oh, God, Ray. Father Noga says, Ray, you are doing exactly what God wants all of us to do. Keep him in your life. Ask him. God, I look at a blank canvas and I ask God, please help me tell your story. Help me tell a beautiful story about us, all of us. And that's why I did the crucifixion painting or the painting Mercy. The crucifixion painting is layered. That was underwritten by Denise DeBartolo York, who owns the San Francisco 49ers. And it's layered with stories. Cardinal Worrell out of Pittsburgh says, Ray, in Bishop Murray, in one painting, you've captured the most important stories in Christianity: the ascension, the crucifixion, the creation, the baptism, the cleansing of the temple, the Trinity. The most important stories in Christianity you captured, and they're very subtly woven into the painting. And that's why the title of that painting is in Aramaic, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do.
Ray, again, I want to just tell people to get to the website, to raysimon.art. I'm sitting here scrolling through them as you're talking to see some of the other paintings, and I'm going to try to bring them up here again real quick. I can't do it justice. Obviously, I want people to take their time, not just do what I'm doing, which is just kind of rifling through these. Because
that one, Bob,
you can really...
that one comes with a scroll. That crucifixion actually has a scroll that serves as a theological interpretation that was written by the clergy. I wrote the basic concept of it, and then the clergy got together and they wrote an actual theological interpretation that serves as a catechistical teaching tool. And they put it into scripture. But at the very bottom, it says, we are a monument, not to our greatness, but to God's existence.
Wow, I see it. I have to squint to see it, but and people probably can if they're watching, especially on the phone or a phone screen right now. But again, go to the website, raysimon.art, hit that gallery, and you can learn the history of so many of these things. I'm looking at Mercy right there with Mother Mary holding her crucified son. Then there's the ones of the president, of Charlie Kirk. Some of these this is one of my favorites too, by the way, America's Story. That you did, and we don't have time to go through it all here, but I want people to take some time to read at least your descriptions here, little biographical,
I'm going to get you, Bob. We're going to get you that painting too. Let me real quick. Can I have a minute to tell you real quick? Look to the right. You see the spirit of Lincoln peacefully walking down the railroad tracks for the new dawn. His largest funeral in the history of America. 7.5 million people lined up along the tracks to say their last goodbyes to beloved president from Washington, D.C. to Springfield, Illinois. Many of them are newly freed slaves to looked at him as their savior. But look, if he's walking down the tracks towards a new dawn in America's future, to the right, the cannon draws silent as the nation heals. Look what's ghosted in the horizon on the right and the left. Slaves working in the cotton fields who never lived to see the installment of the 13th Amendment, but they await upon his arrival to thank him, embrace him, hold his hand as he did theirs, and take him home after his work has been done. And the one woman with her hands around her bosom, knowing in her child, and I emphasize this, will be born in just the beginning of a free country.
I love it. I love every bit of it, Ray. And I'm just so happy that you came on. We were supposed to talk for 15 minutes. Ray, Ken asked me how long, he said 15 minutes. I said, 15, 20, we might go a little bit long. We've been talking for almost 45 minutes now, albeit with,
I apologize.
No, don't, Ray, I could sit here and do this for another 45 and beyond. Honestly, I am just totally in with everything that you've done here. And I want people to know. And by the way, I also saw a note from Ken. He's watching on Facebook. We only have a few people watch on Facebook. Almost everybody watches on the Rumble channel. But I happened to see Ken made a comment on Facebook when I said that he and you have graciously offered a 10% discount using my promo code on anything on your store on the website. And he actually corrected me and said 20%. So
yeah, and I'm going to sign it. I'm going to sign every one of them.
20% and a signature. Yeah,
Yes.
which is phenomenal. So everybody who's watching right now, if you're watching live and in the chat room, seriously, go shopping. Go shopping for yourself or for the patriot or the true historian in your life, and put some of these works of art, make them featured in places in your home, like I have here in my broadcast studio. I'm so proud to have those behind me.
And just so they know, your audience knows, Bob, that every one of those paintings, every single one of them, has a certificate that doesn't talk about the artist. One line: the artist is privileged to do the painting. The rest is the beautiful story about America.
I can bear
right there.
I'm just gonna bear witness to what you just said here. I'm gonna take you off the screen for a moment so I can reach behind me and get this beautiful work off of my wall. And I left it in the actual. Oh, hold on. I think it's behind me over here. Yes, I have my certificate with the story. I've hidden actually in my. So this is the Charlie Kirk, obviously, and it's and its title is Eternal Voice of Freedom. And what I have here, this was in the packaging on the back of this, and I wanted to take it off so I could refer to it from time to time, which is why I had it in my little shelving behind me here. But this is not only the certificate of authenticity, it is exactly what Ray just said. It is the story of the eternal voice of freedom. And you did that with, and this is the other one I have behind me, of course, and this is
exactly
of the presidents, which is called The Awakening, the Best Is Yet to Come. And I'm sorry to interrupt that, but I just
but that's important for your audience, Bob, because it's the stories embedded in those paintings. That's what the multi-layered and how it's intertwined. And that's why we're busy, by the grace of God, not because this artist is this or that. I mean, you know what? And I'll end on this. My wonderful art teacher, Sister Alice Marie Morley, you know what she always said to me, Bob? Celebrate the art within you, not you within the art.
I have to believe your art teacher was not necessarily the one you had in school, because this is divinely inspired and commissioned work. I can say that. So Ray, congratulations on the event coming up at the Trump Kennedy Center on Flag Day and on President Trump's birthday. And thank you for spending the time here. We got to do this again.
Thank you for giving me the time. Way too much time, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
No, I loved it. I loved every bit of it, and I hope we can do this again. Seriously, thank you so much, Ray.
Thank you. I appreciate you. God bless you, Bob.
God bless you too. All right, there you go. That's what I wanted to deliver, way more than I thought we were going to have time for. I didn't think he'd be able to do this for that long length of time. I want you to try to think about what 14 feet is, by the way. The first one here, the first mural that is going to be featured at the 14 feet. All right. I don't know how to say that about how massive that is. Okay, this isn't something he just did on a canvas on an easel in his. I mean, this had to be a laid out work. And then the same thing with the second one. He said it's 12 feet. I mean, and again, the story behind the stories behind the images are just I don't know. It's an extraordinary thing. And I did not know the level of his military and American history knowledge. He's quoting things about the Revolutionary War battles and just off the cuff. I just very, very impressed. And again, this is a man of Lebanese descent. Okay. But he is more American than, many people might actually claim to be. All right. It's already 8:52. Now here's my dilemma and I think my solution. I promised you some prime time for a really, and one more note on Ray and that work. If you go to raysimon.art and you pick something out or multiple pieces, again, you are not only getting 20% off if you use the promo code with my last name, Frantz, Frantz, to make sure you spell it right. And you'll get it signed by Ray officially with the certificate of authenticity of the painting and the story behind it. You'll get all of that stuff. 20% off at raysimon.art. Please take advantage of that, whether it be for yourself or for a gift for someone. It's just extraordinary. So the other part of the story, or the other part of the show that I was supposed to do today, was about the protecting of our children in the state of Ohio from some of the perversion. And I wanted to do it this last week, actually, but I certainly said we got to do it this week now that Pride Month is here, the month of and you know what it means because of the indoctrination and the grooming of children for deviant alternative lifestyles. That's what it's all about. And so Angie King and Josh Williams are two Ohio State representatives who put their heads together to come up with a way to try to protect kids from the perversion intended to sexualize and indoctrinate them. So I did that interview with them last week, had tried to run it last Friday when I was not able to do a live show, and didn't get a chance to because of the tech glitches. But I wanted to make sure that it had its own space during the live stream. So it's about 45 minutes long. So if y'all are willing to stick around for another 45 minutes, I'm going to let this play. And I'm going to let it run, and then I'll come back and wrap it up at the very end. Okay, so if you're in the chat, just call this bonus chat time. This is bonus, opportunity to kind of keep the discussion going. And in fact, I very much would like you to do that, and I want to be in it with you because what Angie King and Josh Williams had to say here are extraordinarily important, I think, for pretty much all Ohioans. So let me bring this up and see if we can't share with you the conversation, a very, very important one with Angie King and, hold on, I'm working on it. I'm going to share this, and we're going to blow it up to this, and we're going to load it up here. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to drop off of it, and I'm going to let you watch and listen to, again, what I found to be a very, very important conversation with Representatives King and Williams. Here we go. Everybody, this is a really, really important conversation I'm going to share with you now because the two people I'm going to speak with, Representatives Angie King and Josh Williams, both Ohio State House representatives, they understand the severity of the situation when it comes to the ongoing indoctrination and sexualization and perversion of Ohio's kids. It's so much more serious than people understand. Little kids are having their minds warped. Little kids with brains that are like Play-Doh. They're just mushable, right? You can shape them in anything you want to. Little kids are still being indoctrinated and are still being, like I said, sexualized in ways that are simply inappropriate and impossible. Well, Representatives King and Williams co-sponsored a House bill called House Bill 249. It sailed through the House. It passed overwhelmingly, but now it faces a challenge in the Senate. Why should it be? In a state as overwhelmingly veto-proof majority Republican as the state of Ohio, why would it face a problem in the Senate? That's what we're going to talk about. But first, we need to learn about what Ohio House Bill 249 does. So let's check in now with Representatives Williams and King. Both of you, obviously, the reason we're here now is House Bill 249. So first of all, I love a good origin story. Josh knows this. I've talked to him many times about his origin story too. And Angie, I'll let you start, Angie. Give me the genesis here. When did you come up with, who came up with it? You approached one another to talk about a bill that would say not only should they not be in the presence of children, they shouldn't be allowed anywhere where children might happen along and actually be exposed to some of this gratuitous sexualized content. How did this whole thing start, Angie?
Sure. Well, thank you, Bob. So it actually started immediately after I won my general election back in November 2022, as I was campaigning. The thing that I heard about from the constituents in Salina was the event that was occurring in the summer, in the month of June, down by our city gateway, our park with our children's splash pad. And these events were supposedly family friendly. However, they were adult performances, adult imagery, sexual performances, adult novelty items, vulgar signs. And so this was occurring down in our city park, again, by our beautiful lakefront and our children's park. And that's the first thing the constituents said, when you get to Columbus, please help us address this issue. So I started working on it immediately in November after I won the election. Remembered having a conversation then with Josh. I don't know if it was January or February. I was sharing this issue that was going on in my hometown, the things that I were working on. He mentioned some issues that were occurring in his hometown. And so I said, Josh, would you like to be the joint sponsor? Plus, he's an attorney. So that's very helpful as well. And really, that was the catalyst. Unfortunately, my hometown.
Josh, I'm going to assume she didn't have to twist your arm very hard to get you involved in this, huh?
No, so I mean, in my first term in the legislature, I was already a professor at Adrian College where I taught constitutional law, and I was teaching a class on free speech at the time when I came across an event that happened in my home city of Toledo. So one of our establishments in downtown Toledo decided to build an outside stage to host a pride event where they had adult performers dressed in very provocative attire, performing in very sexualized nature. Things that you would typically see inside of an adult-only establishment, they had intentionally put out in the parking lot where children could be present. And there was actually news coverage of young kids giving these performers $1 bills while they're prancing around in thongs and rubbing men's face in their breast or breastplate. And I thought that type of behavior clearly was inappropriate, but I also thought it may be unlawful. So in my first term, I served as vice chair of criminal justice committee, and I started looking at the statutes, and I saw how easy it was to skirt the law. And it made it where adult performers that typically would perform in a strip club actually were permitted to go out in public and perform, and there was no law preventing them.
Okay. So you each saw some things that made you cringe and made you very concerned about the well-being of children because of their exposure to these very adult activities. And you both decided to take action. Representative King, I want to start with you on some of these pictures because you shared these with me. Tell me, are these the ones that these are the things that you saw happening in Salina? Now I gotta make sure I can do this properly here. Let me see if this is going to work for us. Yeah, that's not how it was in warm-ups. I swear I made all my shots in warm-up, Coach. I don't know what happened. Let's see here. I'm going to try to shift this over a little bit if I can. There we go. That might make it happen. Okay. So is this one of the images that you saw in Salina that had your constituents coming to you, or your future constituents? Hey, when you get to Columbus, do something about this.
This is actually in Middletown in Butler,
Okay.
about Butler County.
Okay, so that's Middletown. What are we looking at? What is this event?
So this is a drag show, a pride event. I'm not sure which, but there is a small child in front, and I think there might be an additional photo where the children are actually giving dollar bills, giving the adult performers. Again, these are adult performers that generally on a Friday or Saturday night are in an adult establishment, an adult cabaret venue. And they are here in our communities on a Saturday afternoon and open to the public. And what the pictures will show in this picture, as well as the one in Salina, it will show children handing these adults dollar bills after they are twerking and dancing. And you can see the dress is up, the buttocks are exposed. The children give these adult performers, they reward them with cash.
I was going to save that one for cleanup, the cleanup hitter here. But since you brought it up, that little girl, just judging by her size, can't be more than 5 or 6 years old. Josh, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen these similar images in Toledo, where we have an establishment that hosts drag performances. And they've advertised family-friendly events where you can clearly see kids giving dollars to performers, but you can also see them engaging in performances that rise to the level of obscene conduct or conduct that's harmful to a juvenile. This is entirely inappropriate. Children should not be present during these types of performances, but time and time again, we see these performers pushing the boundaries of what is permissible in public, and they're doing it intentionally in an effort to desensitize our children to this type of conduct in their presence.
What do you think, Josh, take this one too. What do you think the goal is? Why do they want to desensitize kids to this kind of content?
Well, you got to think anytime you have a sexual predator, grooming is of the nature. When you start doing things around children enough, children think it's normal. And you can move on to the next step of grooming or recruitment of children. I believe you will see in later videos where their goal is to recruit our children, turn our children against our conservative views and align with them. And as one of the speakers says, you know, we're not going to take over your little town, your children will. That is their intention. It is to change the mindset of our children to be more accepting of these unnatural relationships and engagements, especially in public, in an effort to push their agenda. It's simply political posturing. They are pushing their agenda on our children because we will not accept it as adults.
I wish I didn't have to show this one, but again, I'm not blurring anything out. This is the internet. And as graphic as it is, what that young man there is holding, we kind of need to know what's going on. Is this Salina, Angie?
That's correct. That's a tent that they had to the side of the performance where they sold different novelty items, and this is a plush pillow.
I'm looking at some of these images, and I'm trying to think to myself, what kind of adult would say this is okay? I don't care what your politics are. You can be liberal, you can be progressive, you can be conservative. You have to be an adult. You have to think about children. In what possible way, Representative Angie King, can this be considered appropriate by any reasonable, rational adult, regardless of their ideology?
It is not. And I think that's why, you know, those who are opposed to this common sense policy legislation that shields kids from adult performances and imagery, they understand that it's the picture show, and that's why you find them twisting and manipulating the bill into something that it's not, because they don't have any valid argument to even oppose this. I want to add too that was something real interesting in my hometown. You know, most of these adult performers have stage names, so you don't really know who they are. There was somebody in our community when this happened, is they hired a private investigator to try to find out who these people were because there was no vetting process. And one of the drag queens who came was later discovered to have an extensive criminal record, including a conviction for prostitution.
Wow.
Yes. And so many of them, their stage names, of course, were not released, but they had criminal records. And so, again, not in front of kids, not in a public space. Adults do what they want when they want in an adult-only venue. But, you know, keep away from the kids, keep the kids out of it. Again, this is common sense policy to shield kids from adult entertainment and adult imagery.
This, I want to get a couple more pictures in a moment here, but I can ask you both about this. So I don't know what committee this was introduced in the House, but obviously it came out. It was brought up for a full House vote, overwhelming passage. Josh, what did the opponents, what did the no votes say about reasons why they would oppose a bill to do what you guys are describing, to ban this sort of graphic thing that we're watching right now?
Well, many of the talking points we had heard before, they say that this is unnecessary, that it's already unlawful under Ohio law, which I've explained to them time and time again that it is not. I've asked them to point to the actual statutes that they try to say would make this criminal, but they can't. And then there's also the talking point that parents should be able to make that choice. But what was very interesting, Bob, is 1 week before we had the vote on the floor for House Bill 249, we had to vote on House Bill 84, the Innocence Act, which prevented children from being exposed to obscene performances online, where you would have to do age verification, and every member of the House of Representatives, except for one, voted in support of that legislation, and his opposition was about privacy concerns over data. It wasn't exposing the kids to obscene material. So all of the members of the House said this shouldn't be done online. But yet 1 week later, we had Democrats voting to take kids to these performances in person. And it astonished me that the hypocrisy was there alive and well, simply because we had some people dressed up in costumes that came to committee and were vocal opponents, but not one person made logical sense. This is currently not prohibited by law in Ohio. Our performers, our strip performers, our strippers, can go into the parking lot and perform in front of children in the state of Ohio, and it is entirely lawful.
Angie King, when you hear these kinds of opposition talking points from the other side that voted against this bill, is it just in committee and or on floor votes and statements made, or do you ever have any private conversations with them? Do you ever appeal to them, or are you able to person, woman to woman, man to woman, whatever, representative to representative, explain this to me? Or are you kind of like just on opposite sides of the court, if you will, and you don't meet until it's time to play?
I don't think there is any middle ground on this issue. They don't see it, whether it's intentional or not. I've had the comments on my social media, out in public, because I want to protect kids. Some of the things I can't repeat on the radio.
Excuse me.
Bob, I've talked
Yes,
to
Josh.
Democrat colleagues face to face about their opposition to the bill. And
Okay.
They were very straightforward. They don't think that kids should be at these performances, but they don't want to get primary. They made those comments directly to my face.
So they're putting politics over kids' protection. Politics over protection. There's the motto. I mean, because that's remarkable to me. It's not shocking, though, sadly, because unfortunately, we've seen a lot of these kinds of things from Democrats, and I don't mean to be overtly partisan, but it is what it is. What was the vote? It was 68 Republicans and 32 Democrats, was it not? Yeah. Okay, so that's the way the vote came out. Representative King, I want to go back to a little bit of the signage now, because we showed some of the pictures here, and maybe you can tell us, is this one also from Salina? What's the location of this one?
Yeah, that's at the courthouse. They held a after Josh and I dropped the bill, they held a protest on the courthouse to ban Angie King. And so that was part of a protest that they held up at the courthouse after we introduced the bill.
Maybe my eyes are deceiving me a little bit, but does that actually say kids need religion struck through and drag? Kids need drag? Am I seeing that right? I can't be.
Yeah, you're seeing that correct. Yep, that's what it says.
What would you say to the maker of that sign, Josh Williams?
Clearly, you're attempting to recruit children, even though in committee they say that's not their intention. I mean, they clearly are trying to remove religion from the children's lives and instead place men in drag performances as a center of what they believe is appropriate for children. This is just an attempt to indoctrinate our kids. We've even heard stories where they believe whether the parent wants a child to be present or not, the child should be allowed to come to these performances. We've seen that time and time again. First, they say the parent should be able to make the choice, but then when I say, what if the parent doesn't want to bring the child? The answer is the child should be allowed to come on their own. That's why we host it in parks. So we're simply saying, look, if you're engaged in...
And that's what this would do, right? I'm sorry. This law, or this bill, if it becomes law, it would ban it from parks where kids might be playing on the swing set or the jungle gym or whatever, and might happen to see it, even if they're not marketing it to kids. This would prevent them from kind of, marketing it to kids.
Yeah, we're looking to do it for all performers. It's not just drag queen performers. It's any adult performer in the state of Ohio. If you are going to engage in obscene performances or performances by definition that is harmful to juveniles, those definitions are found in 2907.01 of the Ohio Revised Code. If you're going to engage in those performances, do it behind closed doors where adults only are present. That's simply what we're saying. We don't care what type of performer it is. If you're going to engage in that type of conduct, and if you look at the definition, we're talking about simulated masturbation and sex acts, like extreme things that we are seeing start to become prevalent at these performances, complete nudity. simulated sex acts, simulated bestiality. These are things that should be done in an adult-only environment where children are not going to be present. I think that's simple. I don't think anybody should be in opposition to that. Do not expose children to these sexualized performances if they cross that line.
Angie King, when I was looking at that sign, and then I was looking back at some of the other images, and we've got the videos here in a moment too, but it struck me. The very first one we looked at, it shows basically the skirt up over above and exposing the rear end, the buttocks of the drag queen. And tell me if I'm crazy about this, but I feel like if that was a real woman, not a pretend woman, if these were real women wearing push-up bras and low-cut tops and G-strings, thongs, whatever, and thigh highs, and doing the same type of show, the same type of shaking and sexually gratuitous behaviors, if they were real women doing that in public, they would be arrested for indecent exposure and probably lewd, lascivious behavior or something. But if it's a fake woman, it's got to be protected because inclusivity. Am I wrong?
That 100% spot on. And even in my hometown, I think the discussion between council was, if you're going to do this, card people 18 and over, and just have it hidden, have it in the park, but have a wall. There's no drinking in the parks. We have age limits on driving, on alcohol and smoking. Movies have warnings, parental consent or parental warnings. I mean, this is the same thing, but yet there's a special classification that they want. Or in my hometown, they tried to come to some agreement so it wasn't out in a public space, and they wouldn't do it. They threatened lawsuit. In Fort Wayne, Indiana, I believe they have an event outside in the park, but it's fenced off. And if you're not 18, you don't get in. I mean, that's just common sense. But this particular group was unwilling. They basically said, we have a right. They felt this is our First Amendment right, expression, but that doesn't include obscenity. And so, very, very frustrating, just in your face, type of activity, and no sense of decency.
And I had a group in Toledo that I met with when we introduced it last General Assembly, who specifically asked for an exception for members of the LGBTQ community, that if they were to engage in obscene conduct in the presence of a minor, that it wouldn't be unlawful. They didn't care if we banned any other performers. They wanted an exception only for them, that they could engage in this type of conduct in the presence of a minor. And that clearly showed their intention to expose children to obscene material in an effort to change the child's mindset and make them more accepting of this type of conduct in the presence of these individuals in the children's lives. And that's unacceptable. And I had to explain to them, that under the 14th Amendment, I have to treat everybody equally. I can't give you an exception just because of your sexual identity or gender, sexual orientation or gender identity. That will be unconstitutional, but they didn't care. They wanted an exception for them so they can continue exposing children to this type of conduct.
Josh, I'm going to stay with you on this one because you referenced this a few minutes ago, and I'm going to go back to one of the images that I was trying to show before. The second sign, your children will see us. Your children will love us. Your children will join us. Drag is art, says the sign. And now, Josh, I'm going to take it up a notch here and get you to react to and respond to this.
The biggest and first bully they encounter is their own parent. And how can kids be safe when their parents are the bullies that indoctrinate kids? It's not right. Yes, we need to help protect all kids. It's very important. And
that wasn't the one I actually wanted to play, but I'll play the other one in a moment. But go ahead and respond to that one, Josh. First, your parents, or excuse me, the children's parents are the ones doing the indoctrinating. The children's parents are the ones who are the enemies of what these children want to be. What is your response to that?
Yeah, we've seen this common theme, and we even saw it in Cuyahoga County in Cleveland, Ohio, where our children's services, our children protective services department was screening children for sexual orientation and gender identity, then tagging parents as affirming or non-affirming, and then trying to remove kids from their custody. They were caught red-handed under the Biden administration doing this. And eventually when the reports came out, they backed off, and we've introduced legislation to prevent it from happening again, because the left is adamant that if parents will not allow them to indoctrinate their children, then the parent is the problem and the parent needs to be removed. We've seen it in California, where they've passed laws that allow kids to run away from home and into the arms of organizations that will transition them, that will cut off their genitalia, their breasts, and put them on chemical castrating drugs and hormone transitioning drugs. We've seen the left get out of control and step in the way of parental rights. We saw it in Ohio when we passed the Parents' Bill of Rights. The opposition came from the same group, the same Kaleidoscope group, the same teachers organizations and counselors that came in trying to say that kids should be able to transition in school without parents' permission. This is a concerted effort, and we have to push back on this agenda to protect our children and protect our parents' constitutional right to choose how they raise their children.
You know, Representative Angie King, I know you guys can't do anything about this one, but just because it ties directly into what Josh was just talking about, wasn't there just a vote in the U.S. Congress, in the U.S. House, and 198 Democrats voted to ban, let me rephrase. They voted against a bill that would ban schools from secretly changing a child's gender, pronouns, or name at school without parental consent. So you can't fix that in Washington, obviously, but you can sure as heck try to do this here in Columbus. Can you speak more to that?
Well, I think some of the legislation that we've already passed with the SAFE Act, with the restroom through K through 12. I mean, we're trying to address these things. Part of what this bill does also is to address the situation that that occurred at the YMCA in the women's locker room, when there was a biological male pretending to be a female, telling the staff, "I am a female. I need to go to the ladies' locker room," and was in the women's locker room staring at young children as they're changing from swim meet. So this is something that we have been trying to address. We're trying to get ahead of it. But again, this bill will address that, and with the private part and versus the private area, having that legislation defined so that a situation like that won't occur again in the YMCA.
Okay, Representative Josh Williams, I want to go back to you now with the other video, the one that I had meant to play before, to get your full response to this. This is hard to watch.
I won't change your little town. Your own children will. Your children will see us. Your children will love us. And your children will join us.
Representative Williams, I don't know who or where that particular event was, but that message is chilling. What say you?
Yeah, it's a common theme that we're seeing. This is the intention of the left, to recruit our children, to do it surreptitiously behind our back, inside of our schools, inside of our child protective services, using our court system to try to remove parental rights if you won't transition a child, and even performances that are out in public, in parks and in areas where children can be present and view that. And then we're even seeing it in our libraries, where we're seeing time and time again, they're doing things like drag queen story hour and performances there in an effort to shape the mind of our children to be more accepting of their lifestyle choices, of the type of entertainment that they want to engage in. And that's inappropriate. I mean, we've taken a stance here in Ohio, and what really is disheartening is that we have to introduce legislation because they're not doing these things, and it's not being covered by the media. They're doing it very quietly, pushing the envelope more and more and more every single time. And then as soon as we introduce legislation, they say, look at these hateful people trying to ban this, but we're trying to do a course correction. So for instance, in the Parents' Bill of Rights, we said parents have a right to know whether or not their children are being transitioned and be involved in the conversation, and have the ability to decide whether or not they want to allow their children to transition. But then you have Cuyahoga County, who then says, well, children that are in protective services, parents shouldn't have a right to be engaged in any of that. And we're actually going to remove your children if you try to prevent your children from transitioning, or you're not affirming of those children's sexual orientation or gender identity. And we saw them screen children as young as 5 years old for sexual orientation. This is absurd that we're doing this in the state of Ohio, and we actually have to introduce legislation. But as Angie said, you know, they continue to push the agenda. We had a biological male fully nude in a women's locker room staring at young girls while they took a shower. And when people asked them what they were looking at, they said, nothing, I'm a woman, I'm allowed to be here. And when they were arrested and charged for indecent exposure, the statute was not able to be applied because the actual term that was used was private part, which was undefined. And it said, since an individual's stomach hung over his genitalia, and the young girl who was testifying couldn't say whether or not she saw his penis, he was found not guilty. Well, men should not be in women's locker rooms. They should not be staring at young girls while they're taking showers. They should not be undressing themselves in front of young children and women. Women have a right to privacy and safety, not only in the state of Ohio, but in the United States. And we're going to continue to fight that battle. And we're doing it through House Bill 249 that would change a simple definition to make sure that never happens again.
I'm going to talk about the problem with your bill in a moment here, but Representative King, you can dovetail off of that if you would like to, but I would also want to get those signs back up because I can't quite see them or read them completely. This little montage that's put together here from this table, they're blown up here. The one in the upper right there, it says, I bet HEL, and I can't understand the rest. Do you know what that sign says that is being held by a child?
Let me see if I can.
I mean, part of it's blocked. So if I didn't know any better, it looks like I bet hell is delicious.
That's what I believe it to say as well.
I mean, my goodness, I don't know what to say about it.
Signs made by adults. I don't know whether they were the event organizer, but these are signs that were made by adults, handed out to children to carry around at this Pride event. A lot of vulgar signs. I don't know if these children came with their parents or happened just to be at the park for the day and was checking out the activity to see what happened. But these are vulgar signs in our city park. Children's splash pad. We have a beautiful lake. We're a tourism area. People come for weekend getaways to visit, to stay at the lake, to boat, to fish, recreational area. And this is our gateway to our community. And it's not appropriate. It's not family friendly. And if they want to do that type of activity, there's a place, an adult only venue.
Amen. And the last one on that picture, and Josh, just if you just want to take this one, the one in the upper left, I think I can make out the letters that they intended under Trump. Again, this is being held by what looks like a probably adolescent age girl, maybe 11 or 12 would be my guess based on the picture. But she's holding a sign that says, Trump, the only dick I can't handle. That's what that says. And again, this is being signed off on. In fact, probably, as you said, Angie King, created by the signs being made by adults and distributed to the kids to carry and to share that message. Josh, anything?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that you have adults even pushing this agenda, but in this instance, you have them creating obscene poster boards that they're then handing the children in an effort to show support. And I think it's inappropriate. I think one kid should be present at those type of events, but shame on the adults that try to push that message on the children. Shame on adults for think that children should be pushing a message about sexuality at that young of an age. Shame on adults that are using kids as pawns in their political game. Shame on them. And I want to apologize for continuing to push back on this issue. This is an issue I'm willing to fight on. We fought through 2 general assemblies. We finally got it out of the House, and we're hoping to be able to get the votes necessary in the Senate to get it to the governor's desk.
This is the reason for our conversation today. And I thank you both for being here, the co-sponsors of House Bill 249, which did sail out of the House against Democrat opposition. But now it sits in an equally powerful Republican-controlled Senate. And yet, as I understand it, it's sitting in the Senate Judiciary Committee, which is chaired because of the overwhelming Republican majority by a Republican named Nathan Manning, who I understand refuses to call your bill for a vote in his committee, to get it out of the committee and possibly put before the entire Senate on the floor by Senate President McCauley for a vote, because Nathan Manning does not support this bill. That is what I understand from multiple sources. Angie King, tell me about what your knowledge is of this bill's chances in the Senate based on what I just described.
Well, I might be naive, but I'm optimistic. I have been meeting with committee members. I have been showing them the same pictures that you shared with your listeners. I'm showing them the photos. I'm explaining the catalyst for this bill, showing them that it is a real issue and it is happening here in our great state. And, you know, right now in this General Assembly, we're talking about a lot about tourism. We want folks to come visit. We want them to, we've got what, the #1 parks, voted #1 in the nation for our parks. We want people to come work here. We want people to move here, bring their families here. But yet I don't want to ever have to be, I have grandchildren, 4 grandkids. I don't want to have to take them to the park and have to explain this kind of activity, something they are far too young to understand and comprehend. And so I guess I'm optimistic. I'm working behind the scenes to meet with the members, see if there's questions. I know this week, I don't believe there's no session. I don't know if they are having, the Senate is having committees, but I'm working it. I'm trying to show members that this is a real issue. And I know members of my community as well have met with different committee members.
Josh, your knowledge of where this stands in the Judiciary Committee, and do you have any thoughts or any communication with Chairman Manning about this bill?
Yeah, so I haven't talked to Chairman Manning directly about this particular piece of legislation. I do have a meeting scheduled at the beginning of June to talk to him about 2 other pieces of legislation, and I plan on bringing this one up. You know, I'm optimistic like Angie. You know, when you have unanimous support of the Republican members in the House of Representatives to get this bill out and into the Senate, you expect the Senate to hear this legislation. I don't think one chairman should be powerful enough to hold back a bill, and I'm hoping that that's not the case that in the Senate. Because we could use the same tactics here in the House, and we typically don't do that. When the Senate sends us bills, we give it its due process. We give it to the committees. We let the committee process go through. And I've been in stark opposition to some of the Senate bills, but instead I worked with the sponsors behind the scenes to redo the bill to make it palatable in the House. I would love the opportunity to do that in the Senate as well, to have conversations through the committee process about why this language, why I chose particular language. You know, Angie and I spent countless hours going over every single word in the bill, moving sections of the bill around to make it easier for people to follow along, that harmful to juveniles and obscenity are already defined in the Ohio Revised Code. You know, so I look forward to the committee process. I don't think it's going to be heard before we break for the summer, but there's a lot of plays that we can make in the fall as we approach lame duck. So it won't just die in that committee. I'm going to go down with a strong fight for this legislation before I'm out of the Assembly at the end of this year.
As you should, and I'm glad to hear that. Let me tell you why I brought it up the way that I did. And Representative King, you can speak to this or not, because you are optimistic, and I respect that, and I'm glad of that, actually. But I was told that Chairman Manning spoke at an event in front of the Avon Lake Republican Club meeting just a few weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was asked not once but twice about 249. A, will you let this come up for a vote? And B, will you vote for it? And he deferred both times and refused to answer the question, which is why I've got a problem. He has been a big time, and I don't like to name call and, you know, rely on the cliches of Rhino, but somebody who is not necessarily in the Republican or at least the conservative Republican camp, despite that R after his name. And his refusal to respond twice to questions about whether he'll bring this for a vote, allow it to come for a vote, and or vote for it, lets me know that, or at least it makes me fear, Representative King, that your hard work, the two of you and everybody else who co-sponsored and supported this in the House, they're going to watch this thing die on the vine or die in the committee.
Well, we had that last General Assembly, Josh and I. It died in the House. Was stuck in a particular committee, but we'll keep pushing. I think we're a little wiser this time, and we will continue to fight and look at different strategies to get it through. And also, if we need to have a conversation with President McCulley and get his input, again, we've got the pictures. This is a real issue, and it's happening here. And, you know, it's embarrassing to look at those photos. It's embarrassing to my community. It's an embarrassment to the state of Ohio, because we are not shielding kids from adult performers and imagery. And I don't know, I guess I'm going to be optimistic that perhaps a good heart-to-heart conversation with some photos maybe change his mind, if that's how he feels today. And I guess I'll give him a chance to hear him out. But it's one purpose of this bill is protecting kids. That's the only thing it's about.
And that's all that it should be about. Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, I put a challenge out to anyone that's in opposition, whether it's the chairman or anybody else. If you believe that this is already covered under the state statutes, point me to the statutes, because I know them. Disseminating material harmful to juveniles is about distributing magazines and DVDs of pornography. It is not about the actual performance. The indecent exposure statute is exactly what we're trying to fix in this bill, to change it from private part to private area to make it enforceable under the law. There is nothing currently stopping a performer, an actual performer, from going in and performing in front of a minor child. Even if that child made its way into the strip club, the strip club owner is the only one that can be criminally charged, along with the juvenile. The performer has immunity, essentially, from performing in front of the minor child, and we need to change that here in the state of Ohio. And I put the challenge for anyone that's in opposition. Point me to the statute that you believe will protect kids from these type of performances, and I guarantee you can't show me that and be correct.
I'm putting on the screen what I want all of our viewers and listeners to do, and I put this in my newsletter on Sunday that I had just sent out, and that is to demand that the Ohio Senate pass House Act demand of the senator who is the chairman of that committee, and that is Nathan Manning. So since I put it in the newsletter anyway, I'll put it here as well. On the screen right now, everybody watching, write it down, 614-644-7613. That is to reach Senator Nathan Mannings, chairman of the Judiciary Committee in the Ohio Senate, to reach his office. Tell him you demand a vote. You don't have to tell him how to vote. Certainly would be nice if he would try to protect children as well with his yes vote, but let the Senate speak. They are the representatives of the people, just like Angie King and Josh Williams are the representative of the people over on the House side. This is what the people of Ohio want. And it's not ambiguous. It's not unclear in any way. And the demand needs to be put out there. And what I told people on my newsletter is, when you're done calling and leaving the voicemail, registering your demand, then go to your computer or your phone and email him. And I don't have that one on the screen right now, but it's manning@ohiosenate.gov. Manning@ohiosenate.gov. And let him know in all ways that you can that this must not be allowed to die in that committee. It is obviously extraordinarily, overwhelmingly popular among Ohio conservatives and Republicans and all persons of goodwill who want to protect children. You can't let this thing sit in that committee because, and here's the thing, Representative King, I don't know, from what I was told by a couple of different sources, and I did not go back and check the votes, he voted, he was one of the few Republicans who voted in opposition to Ohio's ban on quote unquote gender affirming care, banning the cross-sex hormones, the puberty blockers, and obviously surgeries and so forth. He voted against it because he's for quote unquote gender-affirming butchery of little children. So that's probably the reason I'm not as optimistic as you of him letting this thing come out for a vote and possibly going to the governor's desk.
Well, we'll be sure to follow up and make sure that those photos, the stories told, and do what we can strategically, whether that's to request a different committee. But I appreciate you sharing that. I had not heard that. So
Yeah. It's really troubling. And like I said, I wouldn't have brought it up if I didn't hear it from multiple sources. So it's what's going on here. And you saw it die in the last General Assembly. We can't let it happen again. Obviously, it's too important. And you guys are showing courage, beyond courage, to come out here and do this and to push this. Josh, I'm going to give you the last word here, and put a cap on this. What do you want to tell the people of Ohio who might be watching, and what do you want to tell your colleagues in the Ohio Senate about the importance of this to wrap it up?
In my 3 years and 3.5 years now in the General Assembly, I've learned a lot of strategies on how to get bills passed. Sometimes it passes in its original format. Sometimes it's amended into a Senate bill that just so happens to be in one of my committees, or it happens in lame duck. What I care about is the policy, not the recognition. I don't care if my name's at the title of the bill. I care about the policy that gets put in place in the state of Ohio. And I want kids to be protected from obscene conduct online and in person. I've already accomplished getting the Innocence Act into the budget, and now another revised version out of the House to strengthen our protections of children seeing pornography and obscene performances online. Now we are trying to give that same protection in person. It doesn't matter if a parent wants to take that child. A parent cannot show a kid pornography. A child cannot show a kid obscene performances under state law. They should not be allowed to go to those performances in person. And we're going to make sure that we get that policy in place before I leave at the end of the General Assembly. We're not going to wait on another General Assembly. We're not going to wait another 4 years. I don't care what bridges I need to burn. We need to protect our kids here in the state of Ohio because we are Republican controlled, and we need to start acting like it.
Amen to that. That is exactly what I wanted to hear. Representative King, any final thoughts?
no, amen to what Josh just said. And we'll keep fighting. We're not discouraged. We're not going to quit, and we'll get it across the finish line.
Amen to that. Representative Angie King, Representative Josh Williams, the co-sponsors of Ohio House Bill 249. Thank you both for coming on here and talking about this. We will continue to bang the drum as long as we can. Is there a deadline, by the way? I don't know when the session ends and when it would be too late to get it out for a vote. Is there a deadline?
Well, we break June 10th and then we come back in the fall. So there's still a lot. Unlike previous General Assemblies, when we're in session, we actually have session every week. So I look forward that there's going to be some availability on us being able to get things done. That's one thing we have to give kudos to Speaker Huffman is that we have a lot of sessions here in the House. So I'm encouraged that even if we don't get it done by June 10th, that we will have an opportunity to do it in the fall.
Well, I'll tell you what, we will bang the drum until June 10th. We will bang the drum again in the fall. And I will tell you this, I happen to live in Nathan Manning's district. I will bang the drum on every appearance that he makes in front of one of the local conservative or Republican club events. I will, and I'm speaking at one of them next month anyway. I will absolutely do that. And I hope everybody watching today does the same thing. Not to put it all on him, but he is the one who can give it the vote that it deserves, and then let the rest of the senators decide what they want to do with this. That's all we ask. That's how government.
If you don't like the bill, don't vote for it on the floor. Let it go. I've done it multiple times in committee. A bill that I don't like, I let come out of committee and I vote no on the floor.
That's how it works. That is exactly how it's got to work. Representative Williams, Representative King, thank you both very much.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, that is going to do it for today. Obviously, we went way overtime here just to get that out there for you. Hold on, I got to make sure something else doesn't start playing. But thank you for watching on this Friday. Thank you to Ray Simon and to Ken Markovich for helping set that up for us a little bit earlier. Don't forget, raysimon.art. And Use the promo code Frantz, get 20% off, and get it personally autographed, whatever pieces you wish, by Ray Simon himself. Thank you to the chatters, the live streamers. Thanks to everybody for watching on playback. Whenever it is that you watch, please give us a thumbs up. Please hit that notification button. Please hit that join button to join us in the locals community as well. Everybody be well, be safe, stay free, and we'll see you Monday. Bye-bye.